Bom dia, gente. Estamos abrindo aqui a nossa primeira programação do último dia de Casa Sul Global. Muita alegria ver todos vocês aqui com a gente. Para quem ainda não me conhece, eu sou Vitória Brown.
Good morning to you all. I am Vitória Brown and I work at the South Global House. I'll start describing myself. I am a Afro-Amazonian woman, medium tall. I have curly hair, and I'm wearing a dress. It's black and white with flowers and birds as motifs. I am wearing brown shoes. I would like to thank the presence of you all and those that are on YouTube with us. For those who did not take your headsets still, please do. Sophia will help you with that. I'm glad to see that you are all wearing your headsets. I would like to thank Sara Carrisi and Mrs. Rangel, our Brazilian Sign Language interpreters. And we are here starting the first edition of Casa Sul Global project. This is a symbolic and physical space to produce knowledge and think about social environmental justice among actors of the Global South. We want to influence dynamics of power, ensuring that at the stage will be the importance of territories. We are then, together with Fundos del Sur and Como Our Network, working as well with the support of Shift the Power, Rede de Fundos Comunitária of the Amazon region. We are uniting many organizations of independent philanthropy from Latin America, Africa, and the Southeast Asia. It's our first time at COP30, and this Global South House answers an effort, a call from the Brazilian government to a workforce so as that engagements become action. We have a collective creation, open proposals, call for projects and partner organizations. The 40 activities sent were assessed by a committee, integrated members of Brazil, Southeast Asia, and Africa, recommending the activities precisely that we have in our program. Thank you then so very much, all of you that partook in the construction of Casa Sul Global. I would like to thank our financiers that make this realization possible. Fundo Baobá, Igualdade Racial, Grupo Volkswagen, Fundo Brasil, Direitos Humanos, Casa Socio-Environmental, Global Giving, Climate and Society Institute, Global Alliance for Green Interaction, Itaúsa, Prosperous Social, Global Fund for Community Foundations, Global Green Grant Funds, Bem de Biodiversidade, Instituto Ibirapitanga, Fundação Avina, Instituto ACP, Instituto População e Natureza, and the Sandana Institute. With no further ado, let us start with our program for today. Fund for Brazilian Amazon Impacts and First Nations, Indigenous people. I'll pass the floor then to Ariene. I ask them then to compose our roundtable, our panel, and please do not forget to make an auto description of yourselves before you start. Thank you so much.
Bom dia.
Good morning.
A minha língua indígena,
Taimeni Tukudanan. Good morning in my language. I salute those present here today. I am Lini. I am wearing a black and white dress with flowers printed on them. I'm wearing a yellow tiara and I have earrings, yellow earrings as well. I'm an Indigenous woman and it's a huge pleasure to be here, such an important moment, this last day of our program here at the Global South House. And as well, we would like to say we are then going towards our territories, going back after so many debates, discussions at this moment during COP30. And this said, such an important moment, we speak about direct financing and co-participation. Direct co-participation of indigenous people in decision-making, construction, and their own mechanisms for indigenous people. And that's the case for indigenous funds contributed practically for the territories to strengthen their capacity to face climate change. And we talk about climatic crisis. We are talking about this population that are really suffering great damages of climatic change. Those funds, indigenous funds, they are born with a mission, with a purpose. We think that direct support is indeed possible and it's necessary. And it shows how this happens. And to start then this dialogue, this debate of ours today, I would like to invite, compose our roundtable, Josimara from the Rutî funds. Sandro from the Podaali funds. And Jonas from the Timbira funds. We also had for this panel a indigenous fund for the Rio Negro region, Ferni, called. They had been here already previously, but they are already on their way back home, so that's why they're not here. But I would like to remember their name, their importance, and their presence at Rio Negro region. They have a lot of experience, contribution, different kind of support to direct support for indigenous people. To start off then our debate with indigenous funds, I would like to thank firstly all of those that are here at this moment after a long journey at this COP in Berlin, people coming from so many different places here to debate, talk about indigenous funds and what they have in terms of a contribution to all of us. Now, indigenous funds are indeed fundamental. Indigenous people, from the perspective that they are created and managed for and by indigenous people. So I'll pass the floor now. I'll solve questions to our roundtable today. People that are managers of those funds work hard and they really know the experience in territories and they bring it to the debate here to COP30. And how is it then that direct financing can strengthen autonomy, governance, and climatic solutions for the territories that are supported by the funds? I'll pass the question and pass the floor to Jonas from Timbira funds.
Bom dia.
Good morning.
Bom dia a todos e todas.
Good morning to you all.
Meu nome é Jonas, eu sou do povo
My name is
Gavião.
Jonas. I belong to the Kavião people.
É uma língua que não é minha língua, né? E eu me esforço
And
bastante
it's a language that is not my language. I do my best to try to understand Portuguese and to speak Portuguese, which is not easy for me. Now, those funds are very important for us, Indigenous people, because we support directly the real needs of our grassroots communities, our people at the front line. And I want to say that during all this time, the fund in which we've been working, strengthening and helping our people, culture, territoriality, monitoring. And during all this time, we have supported 137 community projects. And that is indeed very important. Seems as if finances could think that that's not so much, but for us, it's a huge figure, really. It's important, it's interesting, and we are struggling indeed. We advocate not only for the environment, the ecosystem, but also for the humanity that lives there with its own culture, language, ways of being, and indeed to ensure the security and the continuity of these people. They really need this land to be marked. That is a proper land demarcation. With no land, with no legal land debate, we can't move forward in terms of our language, our culture, our ways of living.
Porque eu vou falar aqui que nós estamos incluídos na palavra
to say that we are included in the word indigenous, but we are not the same. Each people has as well its own ways, its own understanding, its own protection organization. So therefore, it's very important for those funds to be supported to ensure the possibility for them to keep on doing their work in the front lines, together with the territories that really are suffering so much. Fishermen, so many different collectors.
Os problemas de criminalidade que a gente vem acompanhando, né? E nosso fundo, ele trabalha.
And all those problems that we see. So our fund.
Bom, o recurso que a gente tem de compensação.
The resources we have in terms of compensation were given. We're not given because they like us for nothing. It's really because we had to prosecute, we have to struggle, we had to fight for our rights. Little by little, we earned confidence, our capacity building. We are competent, really, and we are able to work with those resources, support those instances, their needs, and indeed, we struggle, not for me, but to advocate for the rights, not only of these people, this humanity, but for all of us. And we understand that climate is changing.
A gente percebe que a chuva não chove no período certo, na época certa. A gente tem problema de fazer plantio.
We see that rains are changing. It's not, things are not as it were in terms of planting, in terms of irrigation. Today, it's as if we did not know how to deal with climate change. Our elderly people when they see what's happening, positions of the moon and land, fruits, they can read their environment, and they have their own science, things that are not written, but that we follow in our day lives. We therefore need support for us to continue to do our work, such an important work. Indeed, I believe that our territory is suffering a lot of pressure, multinational companies coming, and when they come to our region, they might be very persuasive, evading promises, engagements. Are they the same? People from Rio, São Paulo, Santa Catarina, from the main capitals. Is it the same from what we believe in our region? And sometimes we're not even ready to understand what they promise and what they say. We know that there are a lot of lies as well, and we are suffering a lot because of this. A lot of damage has been caused. So we need this support. We need this engagement with our people, to be honest and earnest. So people from Marinho and Tocantins, Krao people, Gavião, Cricati and Apinagé, among others, are those people called Timbira. But we also have our own names, our own identity, language and culture. Today I'm speaking Portuguese here with you, the national language, but we also have our languages and our laws that are the first nation's languages. Many non-indigenous people, when they create a law and they bring it to our region, they ask us to follow, but do they follow them themselves? So this is why I advocate for my people. To be part of a network is so important. We will always be here strengthening together, and our fight, our struggles are huge indeed. Infinite, I would even say. Thank you so much, Jonas. Indeed, networks are so important, and we are collectively moving forward. For sure, when we talk about networks, none of us will be forgetting in this support to indigenous people and territories. Now, I will pass the floor to Sandro. Indigenous funds, direct financing. Does it strengthen governance and autonomy, indigenous people? How is it with climatic change? Thank you all. Thank you very much. My language is Yaratu. Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today with you all and to be part of this roundtable to talk about this work of ours executed with Podaali funds. I am from the Bare people, north of Rio Negro region, and I am here working with the financing chairs of the Podaali funds. We have 4 indigenous directors, chair of this fund, and Podaali funds is the result of a dialogue that was built more than 10 years ago. Our leaders have talked, have debated, and thought of something that could put indigenous people at the center of the stage. So they thought, how could this movement contribute in terms of those resources to really get to those who most need at the front lines? This question has to do with the mission of the Podaali funds. Autonomy, strengthening, and the importance.
Não falo somente do Fundo Podaali, mas porque é um trabalho que é muito direcionado, né? Então, quando a gente fala de fundo indígena, a gente pensa
logo Indigenous funds, we say that it's a resource that will be sent to indigenous population. So our funds work.
São recursos que são direcionados 100% para as populações indígenas.
Really for indigenous people. 5 years of Podaali, in that short time, Podaali has assumed a lot of responsibilities. This context of the movement, for us, it's very important. As indigenous movements, that's the result. We have our finances and supporters, part of one of the challenges for the movement. Many supporters still have. So those indigenous funds, when they start to show indeed results brought by the territories, that for us is very positive. And this is very much directed. And I was thinking here while Jonas spoke, I was remembering to share with you, to have a dimension of how things are happening in the territories. I remember when I was still very young, my mother used to work clearing, planting, and we also had the ovens. And there was a small river, and we had to cross this stream. Very strong stream it was. When I went there recently, I visited the place where I used to go with my mother when I was a kid, and I was very sad to see what was a huge stream with clean water. Today, it's very shallow, and that's so sad for us. It shows a reality that is happening in all the territories. And it has to do with climate change. Transformations of the territories. When we go to this space of dialogue, we want to show the reality of what's happening there. And that is, as Jonas said, something very important, not only for us, not only for the movement, but for the whole humanity. What the indigenous movement and the funds do is to try and do a work of regeneration. But that's really very hard. We need your support to be able to recover properly. We want to strengthen territories with those funds. And there are huge companies coming. And we need to understand and face those logics, bringing new initiatives from the territories. That's so important for us. Indeed, they are doing a lot with very little resources. The results are amazing. So if we could have more and more help, support many territories that still need money, hasn't reached them yet. So that's very important, very positive for humanity. It's for humanity, not only for us. It's a contribution you do. We want to contribute. It's a constant struggle, a great challenge indeed. We struggle for us to have our climate, our tradition, lives of our leaders, for them to continue.
And I'm saying leadership because everyone who tries to stand up against something, they have to run away, they have to hide. They're actually trying to do something that is theirs. They're not trying to take it from anyone else. It's their right. But whenever they stand up against something, they are threatened. And I'm saying it's a threat because there are so many things that are getting to these territories that are not related to the indigenous groups. So a lot of things get lost because nobody is there to bring that back, to rescue that. I usually say that there was this initiative that we had in Tocantins, for a group of young people, where they had a study and they noticed they could try and bring back a tradition that they no longer remembered. So through a small resource, they were able to do that. They were able to bring that back, that tradition, that thing that they were, that was sacred, really, for them. So they brought that back thanks to that initiative. It's just one example amidst so many others. But we're not paying attention to that. So that's why I'm talking about this issue. I really think we should raise awareness on what is happening. We should show everyone the reality of what's happening. Thank you. Thank you, Sandro. I think it's important to hear that. And we noticed that the contribution of the indigenous funds towards other indigenous peoples is fundamental. It is essential. And that idea, that commitment of the indigenous movement, of the populations that believe in that, that's all intertwined. So one of the things that Sandro mentioned is trust. That the indigenous peoples, they trust their mechanism, and that should be a good example for larger funds as well. So now I'm going to turn it over to Josimara about that direct funding, about those mechanisms. How do you think that strengthens autonomy in the territories? Thank you for the question. I am Josimara. I'm an indigenous woman from the Bare people. I am wearing a white shirt, white pants. I have brown skin and long brown hair. I come from Alto Rio Negro in the Amazon. And today I'm here to collaborate with the Indigenous Council of Roraima, which is an organization that's been going on for over 50 years. And I like to say that because when we talk about the trajectory of the indigenous movement, a lot of people will not think about the fact that when we started, it was very painful. It was very difficult for our parents and grandparents. It was a real struggle. And I was listening to Jonas and Sandro, and I was thinking about that. I was thinking, why do these funds exist? Why did we create these funds? And this takes me back to colonization. long story of colonization that we noticed that happened in Brazil, and the indigenous peoples were highly affected, most affected. Our territory was stolen from us, our culture, many other things. And today we're looking at a certain transformation, I would say, many different changes. Now we're occupying our space that belongs to us. It is our right. When we sit here to talk to you, when we show you our propositions, we spend so many years being told what to do, receiving crumbles of support. And there was a lot that we had to say. Indigenous funds are a recent thing in Brazil. In the past 5 years, we've seen many new funds, and have Fundo Timbira. We've had it for 10 years. We have Podaali, many others that were, founded in the past 5 years in this collective idea of doing it ourselves. I like to mention Wanda Witoto. She usually says, who's better than us to talk about ourselves? We are the ones living in these territories. People will talk about our forests, our rivers, our biodiversity as well. But these territories, they also have a face. They also have people there involved. And these people need support, need protection. Many of our relatives around Brazil, they're suffering. They're trying to fight for their lives. I mean, in Roraima, we're trying to fight to have autonomy, to manage our territories, but in many other places, they're actually fighting for their lives, to have the right to live in their own territory. So there are many things that we need to support them with. And a lot of people say, well, why did you create this fund? Why did you found it? It's because we have so many needs to observe. And these funds, they were designed under a certain condition, a certain scenario. The Brazilian government at the time did not support the indigenous people. We didn't have any freedom to choose how we wanted to live, but still, this movement resisted and created its own mechanisms to say, we want it this way. And the indigenous funds were created within certain organizations, within the grassroots organizations. So that's nice to see, because it's our own governance. It's the right process for our reality. I mean, when we talk about it, when we have a donor that says, we want to support the Amazon, whenever they want to support the Amazon, many times they also talk about demands that they have. And then when we say, okay, let's have this activity in the Amazon, let's have this project in the Amazon, but it's very different. I mean, the cost in the Amazon is very different from other places. In Rio Negro, where I am, we can only go somewhere by boat. There's a river in there. It's not a car. So you have to navigate, you have to sail for days, many times, not just hours. And it takes a long time to get to places. So it's an expense that they don't consider. Actually, it's an investment. We're investing our time, our money, but it takes much longer and it's more expensive. So back to your question, These funds, they were designed under these scenarios. But we need more autonomy. We need more decision-making power for them, for these people. I also wanted to talk about the Rutî Fund, which I've been working with for about a year. It is recent. We created it to support productive initiatives in these territories as a form of resilience for those who are living in these territories. So we support initiatives in production, in agriculture, and agribusiness, extractive practices. It's a form of resilience, of resistance, really, so they can have the autonomy that we are looking for. Because nowadays it seems like money is a block. If there's no money, you have to bow to those who do have that money. And we want to break that pattern. We want to have our own money. I remember this leader in the Iwa people. We were there visiting. They took us to the forest. They were showing us their production. And then they said, you see, this is our bank, actually. This is the most important bank for us. This is where we get oxygen. This is where we eat. This is where we hunt. This is where we drink water. This is the most important bank for us. This is where we come for life. Because in the city, in those banks, it's just money. But for life, you need to come to the forest. And I was thinking about that, the importance of these mechanisms to help the people who are in the territory, who are holding the sky that is above our heads. I mean, the oxygen that comes from these forests, it's not just important for the people living around the forest, it's for the entire planet. And all these days, we've been talking about direct funding, the importance of direct funding. We're in this event, COP30, talking about rule negotiations and commitments between countries. And there are no indigenous people, no indigenous leaders, no indigenous representatives in those tables there where they're discussing what's going to happen to us, to our land, to our territories. But they won't open any space for us to be there and talk about it. So this is something that we have to revisit. That's why we're here joining forces, because we need to have this incidence, this more effective incidence. We need to be recognized as a legitimate mechanism that's created in these territories for these territories. So we have to not just think about our political power. We also have a technical and creative power. In the Rutî Fund, we are trying to bring many things into this context. We are doing something innovative as well. We are trying to have other organizations do the same. And it's about not retransferring, reassigning resources. We know resources are a means, not an end. That's what money is, right? So we're not going to solve any issues, just assigning resources. So we're bringing that innovation of not assigning resources. I mean, we support projects, we do the whole bureaucracy thing, so people don't have to adapt to that. Because the financing model that we use nowadays is the Western model, where you have a public notice, then you have to register, then you have to put your ideas on paper with so many demands and documents, etc. You need to be registered as a company, or you need to have a partner that is registered as a company. So it's a lot of bureaucracy, and That's not our bureaucracy. That's something that was imposed to us. It's the Western model. So when it comes to these funds, we need to think that that's based in our reality as well. Of course, there are obligations that we have to consider, some rules that we have to consider. Every donor will have their own demands, but we have to consider our conditions as well. So this is what the fund is trying to do. It's been challenging. It's not easy. It is a challenge to think about all the bureaucracy and all this, but we are investing now in the team so that we can deal with that demand for the territory. Thank you once again. We would like to thank you all very much and invite you, to understand a little bit more of what the indigenous funds are. I think more and more we're going to have this as a stronger bond for us. Thank you. Thank you, Josie. It's true, it's important to remember that trajectory of how these funds have been created. Especially thinking about your dreams as well, your thoughts and the collective constructions that are fundamental. We are not just individuals, we're a we. Cannot do anything alone. So we have our representatives, we have our leaders, but behind all that, there's a community, there are peoples, there are organizations. So indigenous funds, they have to consider these differences. I think these funds that were created to support the indigenous peoples have to be looked at from the perspective of the indigenous peoples, exactly, based on what they're building as a collective. These funds, they do not exist on their own.
E também para que eles façam esse apoio de acordo com suas realidades.
So we have to think about the different realities. And by the way, about what Jonas was saying, he was talking about that diversity. We have 3 funds here, one for the Amazon, and then we have this greater diversity. But the Timbira fund or the Rutî, for instance, they still have a lot of diversity. And how can we make this support get to the territories according to their realities, right? So these are different peoples, but they can still do it. They can still make it happen. Because there's an active listening, really. We're trying to understand what people are saying, how they want to be supported, and that makes a huge difference. It is a way for us to walk together and not try to do everything alone. So that makes it work. That's an experience that makes indigenous funds be different. So after everything that we heard here, about how we got here, about our story, how we're doing this, we're now going to understand more about experiences. We talk about many things, but we're also doing many things. Funds are thinking about how this is built, but they want to show good results as well. And that's important for self-monitoring. Indigenous funds, they know that supervision is important. Well, the very territories are also doing or trying to monitor their own results.
porque é algo que eles já fazem.
And they're saying, well, this is the way that we work because, we've been doing this like this for a while. Let's try to build something new. And then they try to improve what they're doing based on the support that they receive. Anyway, this is part of the advantage of having self-monitoring, and it's also nice to see these initiatives from up close, to see how these resources are being applied or used.
O Sandro também vai trazer a forma como o Fundo.
Sandro is also going to tell us more about the Baratua Fund.
Verificando como esses
He will
apoios
tell us more about that. And I'm sure Timbira also has examples of that.
E agora a gente vai ouvir.
So now we're going to turn it over.
Muito mais do que eles trouxeram aqui. Então nós estamos ansiosos agora para saber o que cada fundo trouxe de resultados.
Some other funds.
A partir dessas falas.
We'll see what concrete examples we have.
Como exemplo de como os fundos indígenas contribuem na prática para que os
we want to hear about examples on how indigenous funds can help
as mudanças climáticas.
Territories deal with climate change.
Agora dessas experiências.
Let's see a little bit more about these experiences. Thank you. Jonas, Fundo Timbira, you have the floor.
Mais uma vez, bom dia. Eu quero
Good morning
pedir
once again.
Eu fico nervoso, né? Quando eu vou falar a língua português.
I feel a bit anxious when I have to speak Portuguese. I'm sorry about that.
Bom, mas a experiência é o seguinte, que
well, let me tell you about my experience at Fundo Timbira.
Apoia as comunidades indígenas no âmbito
Our fund is trying to support indigenous peoples.
Né? Tem uma barragem construída, né? E ela localiza no Rio Tocantins, entre o estado
we're in
do
the
Tocantins
Tocantins River,
né?
Close to Maranhão.
E somos do Cerrado e da Amazônia.
We're from
legal,
the Cerrado
né?
and the Amazon.
Tá em dois biomas, né?
We're in two different biomes.
A gente tem o desafio, né? Muito grande.
And we deal with a great challenge, I would say.
Dos não indígenas diz assim, não. Esse edital saiu só para a Amazônia
Many
legal.
times there are public notices that say, well, this is just for the Amazon, not for the Cerrado, and vice versa. And then we never know if we can apply or not. I mean, where are we since we're in two different biomes? But this resource that we have is supposed to strengthen food security, territorial security as well, and the institution. Indigenous organizations, they're created
mas a gente pega para a gente poder fazer essa burocracia
so that we can
Josimara falou, né? Que para acontecer
sort out the bureaucracy, as Josimara was saying. But in order to do that, we need to train people. We need to train our youth, the women in our community, so we can get ready to advance in that fight for our rights.
Proteção.
So we need protection, of course. We need that support. And that's going to complement what we do in our struggle to innovate and strengthen what we know that we can do, what our people can do, which is building and protecting. And have the right conditions for our people to have food and
né? E
and everything that's necessary.
nesses período todo,
So throughout all this time,
material para
we've
orientar
built
para
or we've designed leaflets or materials, documents for them to understand all this bureaucratic process.
Dentro do nosso da nossa organização a gente tem o
And within
comitê
our
gestor
organization, we
para
have
analisar os projetos,
managing
aprovar,
committee as well
depois
to look at
aprovar
the different
a
projects, to
prestação de
approve them,
conta,
to think
financeiro, de
about
atividades, né? Eu acho
financial
que
services, activities.
isso é uma caminhada que está mostrando que a gente,
So this
na
is
minha fala
showing
anterior, que a gente
that
tem capacidade, sim,
we
de fazer nossa
have the ability
administração com os recursos que a gente
to
recebe,
manage what we
né?
need to manage
E
with the resources
a
that we
ideia
receive.
não é a gente errar, a gente procura para acertar.
Our idea
né?
is to do
E
things the right way, of course,
a gente atende território
and
Craiolândia, que é
we
dos
deal with
Craô,
Criolandia,
aplicativo,
with
governador,
different
que é do meu
territories,
povo, e
Governador,
tem os
and some
Apinagés.
others,
A gente
and
tem
the
outros
Apinagés as
povos que
well.
estão
We
ali,
have some other peoples
que a nossa proposta e
around
ideia é a
us,
gente ampliar,
and our idea is to
atender outros
expand.
povos,
We
outros
want to help
territórios,
more
mas para
people
isso nós precisamos de
in different
apoio
territories, but
desses
of course we need the
financiadores, né?
support of the funding
E que
partners
eles
to do
confiam
so.
na gente,
And they
né?
need to
Porque a gente
trust what we're
confia
doing. I
e a
mean,
gente não é
we
confiado. As
trust,
pessoas
but
não
we
confiam
need
na
people to
gente.
trust
Por que que a
us
gente
as well.
confia, a gente não tem confiança?
We do
Para
trust
nós
them.
confiar nos financiadores,
For
eles têm que
us to
confiar na gente
trust
também.
our
A
funding
gente tem que
agents, they have to
apostar nas
trust us
propostas
as well.
colocadas,
They have to,
né?
you know,
Porque
bet on
a
what we're
gente
doing.
é indígena, fala outra língua e
They have to believe
a
actually in
gente
what we're doing. I mean, we're
entra nesse
indigenous,
mundo
we speak other
nacional que
languages, and
essa língua que eu estou falando, vocês têm os conceitos de
right now, this
administrar, de
language that I
funcionar,
am
e nós
speaking,
precisamos
you
entender
have many
isso.
other concepts in
E
Portuguese that
como eu
I
estou
don't
dizendo, as
about
nossas metas
administrative tasks and financial services, etc.
ter esses projetos para
So
implantar proteção territorial,
we're talking about
onde está o
the
rio,
protection
onde
of our
está a caça, onde
territories
está a
and
fauna,
the
né? A gente
rivers, the
ter
animals.
recurso para proteger isso,
We
né?
need to have
E
resources
nesse
to protect
período
all that.
todo a gente tem
And throughout all this
atividades
time, we've
realizadas,
had
a gente
activities,
tem capacitação direcionada
training
para os
sessions.
conselheiros, para eles poderem entender o processo de funcionamento.
It's
Coisa
important
dê
to
certo para nós,
understand
né?
how things work. So, you
E
know,
na fala da Josimara, a gente
this
teve
is
tutela há muito tempo da
fluid.
FUNAI,
And
né?
as Josimara
A
was saying,
FUNAI
we had the
é uma
supervision of
instituição que
FUNAI for a
cuida do
while.
patrimônio
FUNAI is an
indígena
institution that takes
do
care of
Brasil,
the
né? E
indigenous
Estado,
legacy in Brazil,
né?
I would say.
E a gente cobra para
And
eles
we
estar
do
junto,
tell them
orientando, apoiando,
that they should be
colaborando
there to see what's
conosco, né?
happening,
Para a gente poder fazer
collaborating, helping
as
us,
nossas ações
so we can
acontecerem.
work on our activities the
Fazer
right
reunião,
way.
a gente tem reunião dos
We
assessores,
have
da agência de
meetings with the
implementadores,
agencies
nas terras indígenas para
in the
a gente
indigenous
esclarecer os nossos
communities,
parentes para entender,
and then we
apoiar,
explain
ajudar, avaliar, né? Se é adequado ou
what's
não, né?
happening. We ask for
A
support.
gente vem fazendo essas articulações políticas
Anyway, we've
para
been
mostrar,
working
né?
on
E a
that
gente discutir planejamento, né?
so we can
Política,
discuss
né? Porque
political
não é para a gente
planning,
ficar dentro
etc.
da área, isolado. Nós temos que lutar para
We should
mostrar para
not be
fora que
isolated. We actually
a
have to
gente
show
tem essa
everyone
luta,
that
né? E
we're
eu estou
fighting for
falando essas
something.
coisas, né? A gente faz reunião
And I'm saying
equipe
all this,
técnica
you
que a
know,
gente
we have
tem
meetings with the
da
technical
agência para fazer
team,
planejamento,
in the
né?
agency
E eu sou
plan
indígena que estou lá nesse fundo
things, and I am
atuando,
indigenous. I
atualmente
am there in that
no
fund. I
comitê
am
executivo
right now. I'm
para
working in the executive committee
atendimento de atividade do dia
to
a dia,
help with certain
ajudar,
activities on a
mostrar,
daily
né,
basis.
meu povo, meus parentes,
We're
para
trying to
qualquer pessoa
show
que eu
my
tenha
people
condição de esclarecer
and other peoples that I'm there to collaborate with knowledge.
Então, como eu falei, né? A gente
So as I was saying,
tem essa luta, né? E eu
that's
queria
the
que
struggle. And
aqui, se tiver os financiadores, acreditar em
if there are
nós.
any funding
pra gente
agents
poder
here, any
acreditar
funding
também nos
partners, please
financiadores.
trust that we're
Mas
doing
eu
the
acho
right
que
thing
isso
so we can
ninguém
also
fala,
trust
tá
you.
bom? Mas
That's what I wanted
que
to say.
a gente tem.
Thank you so much.
Eu vou chamar o
I
vídeo
would like
do
to.
Alex da
I
comunicação.
would now ask, please, to show Alex's video
Fundo Timbira.
from the Timbira funds.
Você sabe o que é um fundo de recursos?
Indigenous funds and managing pore. Do you know what a resource fund? Well, it can be represented like this. The trunk is the pore, like the capital, and then fruits are then its interest rates. It's a way of seeing this. Our planet is going through a very serious climate crisis, and indigenous people are fundamental to protect the environment. There's a recognition worldwide, and this is why we have indigenous funds. They help us to deal with environment, to treat, and so the capital, the pore, is kept. We only use the interest rates. This is why we have some rules to protect our pore, our capital, so that it's always in security. So today, any problem that can appear because of any distribution agency, we are protected. So Timbira Fund started 10 years ago to keep the capital, the pore, of the compensations for estreito works. Different people, different leaders united, and they had this idea how to ensure a continuity of the capital, the pore they received as a compensation for the construction. Construction then of this works, a dam. We had agreements between FUNAI and SESTE, 2010, 2012, together with SESTE and Witi Caete, 2017. The terms were altered to include also the Witi Caete. 2020, that was the end of those terms we have. It was a term of commitment. So we had many leaders together to decide what would be done during this period. The pore, the capital, was in a banking account of SESTE. Witikate and Pempa were doing the management of those funds related then to impact resulting from the construction of the dam. The pore to compensate the dam then meant a new house, a real indigenous fund, and Witi Kate and Pemsa together with a managers designated by the leaders would take care of those funds for them to have more autonomy to decide even better how to deal with the pore and its fruits, its offsprings, its grapes. So then the main pore kept on growing, and this was beneficial for all the people. In this way, we could really ensure a future for all of these people, proper livelihoods.
Obrigada. Jonas, quer falar pouquinho sobre...
Thank you, Jonas. Would you like to say something, comment on the video?
Então, como foi o
Yes,
o
indeed.
vídeo foi apresentado, a gente não define sozinho, né? A gente olha as
This video, when it
associações,
was first
organizações que é
presented,
diferente da nossa.
and we see
Porque quem
that
decide
we
dentro da nossa associação
do
para
not do
a
things
ação
alone,
acontecer,
always together with
atividades
many
acontecerem,
organizations. Those who
é os
decide
caciques que
all the activities
reúnem
to really happen are the
na
leaders when
assembleia,
they get
definem,
together
deixam
in
as
an assembly,
demandas para a organização, pessoal que estão
and
na
then they
diretoria, dentro da
show
organização, para
the demands,
fazer
what has to be
ação e
taken through the
atividades
organization,
acontecerem dentro da nossa organização.
so as
É isso,
all the
minha
activities
fala, tentando explicar aí para vocês.
to continue. That's what I wanted to contribute. Thank you so much, Jonas. Very important indeed, an important video.
Mais claro de como que eles atuam, de como é o processo da
And it
governança,
becomes
como fazem
clear
esses
for us
apoios.
how they work,
E
how
ficou
the
muito
government
legal, Jonas. Parabéns por essa
process
partilha
is.
conosco.
Indeed, the video
E eu
shows
vou
that
passar
very well.
agora
So
para o
thank you so much
Sandro,
for
ele que é o
sharing
nosso
it and to be today with us.
perdão,
I'll
nosso
pass the
diretor
floor now to
financeiro do
Sandro.
Fundo Podaali, que vai
He
também
is our
trazer esses resultados, trazer também essa
financial chair at the
resposta
Podaali Funds, and he's
de
going to
como que
show
o
the
Fundo
results.
Podaali ele
And
faz
he'll
esses
also
apoios
show
chegar
how
até
the
os
Podaali
servidores.
Funds is able to do this transfer from the resources getting to the territories.
Oi. Tá. Vamos lá. Eu no início
I
acabei
hope
de
you can hear me
esquecer
now.
de fazer a apresentação. Como chama?
Well, when I
Autodescrição,
was
desculpa. Eu
talking,
nunca
I
fiz
forgot
isso, então eu
to
acabei esquecendo. Vamos
do
lá,
this
então, eu sou um homem
auto description of
indígena,
myself,
né?
so I
Tô
end up
vestido
forgetting
com
it's the
uma
first time I'm doing it.
camisa
I'm
com
well, I'm an
gravos
indigenous
do
man.
povo
I'm
Cambeba.
wearing a shirt
Tô com um
with
colar
Cambe
de
people motives.
dentes de
I'm wearing a
macaco,
necklace as well,
é do povo Balatiponé, do Mato Grosso.
made out of
Tô com uma pulseira aqui de
monkey
miçanga do povo
teeth,
Guajajara do Maranhão. Uma
and
calça jeans
I
e uma
have
sandália simples.
also
Acho que é isso.
from the
Bom,
Guajajara Marinho people. I'm
vamos
wearing a
aqui
bracelet and
direcionar
have
pouco sobre
wearing
o que a
jeans
Ariane
and
traz.
sandals.
Eu acho que é importante a gente
We will then.
trazer
I would like to say at this
também
moment
a nossa governança, né?
to talk about
Porque
our
a
convergence,
governança ela é parte de uma estratégia dos fundos.
because our
Então,
governance
e aí eu
indeed
falo
is
pouco
part of the strategy of
do
these
Fundo
funds,
Podaali, né? A gente tem
and this
em
is
nossa governança a nossa
especially
assembleia.
for the
Nós
Podaali
temos o nosso
funds. Our
conselho
governance has
deliberativo, nós temos o
an
nosso
assembly,
conselho fiscal,
a
temos o
committee,
conselho orientador e
steering
temos a
committee, a
diretoria
fiscal committee,
executiva. A
an
diretoria
assessment
executiva
committee,
é quem executa
and
tudo aquilo que é
we have
decidido
also
pela
the
assembleia e pelo
chairs
conselho.
executing
Então, pra
then what
gente é
the
muito
assembly
estratégico ter
discusses.
dos
Therefore,
conselhos, porque
it's very
são a partir dos
strategic
conselhos
to have
que nós
those
executamos
councils.
as
It's
ações.
thanks
Né?
to
Então, o
them,
nosso
from
conselho
them, that
deliberativo,
we
por
are
exemplo,
able
ele é
to
liderado por,
take our
ele é
actions
composto,
forward.
desculpa,
Our
por
deliberative
9
council
lideranças, 9
committee
indígenas
is
das 9
composed
regionais que
by
compõem a Amazônia
9
brasileira,
leaders.
né? Só ressalto aqui que o
They
Fundo
come from
Podaali,
different
ele é o
regions, different
resultado de
regions of the
diálogo
Brazilian Amazon.
feito pela
I would like
COIAB,
to say as
né?
well
Então,
that
a
the
gente
Podaali
trabalha
Fund is the
muito
result
em conjunto
of
com a
a
COIAB nesses
dialogue done
diálogos
by
nas
COIAB.
áreas de
We
atuação.
worked a lot
Então,
with
esse
them
conselho e
in
essas 9
that
lideranças distribuídas para a gente é muito
field
importante.
monitoring, and
Pelo fato
with the
de elas estarem nas
council.
regionais, então elas estão
New
acompanhando
leaders are
tudo o que
so
está
important,
acontecendo
I
em
must
suas
say,
regionais. E a partir do momento que a gente senta
because
para
they really
conversar
follow
com a nossa
all that
governança,
is
a
happening in
gente
their
começa a trabalhar
regions. They
tudo
live
aquilo
there,
que
so they
vem
are
dos
in those
territórios,
territories.
né? Então não se
Talk
trata de
about
algo
governance
pronto
is
que a
then
diretoria, por exemplo, apresenta
working
para o
with
conselho, para o
all
conselho
of what
aprovar.
we have in
É o
our different
contrário, né?
territories,
Esse diálogo que
what
existe
the
dos
directors
territórios
present to
com
the
suas
council.
lideranças e a
It's not the
partir de então
opposite, the
essas
dialogue
lideranças trazem
that
para
we
nós
have
toda essa demanda.
with
Né? O nosso
those
conselho fiscal
leaders
também, que tem um papel muito importante,
and
que
our
avalia as nossas contas, prestações de
fiscal
contas, nossos
committee.
processos internos, que nos orientam também, né? E o nosso
They
conselho
do
orientador
audits.
também é muito estratégico para a gente, por quê?
And we have an assessment council as well, very important too, composed by indigenous people and non-indigenous people. They are supporters, financiers, donors that take us to places that have to do with the movement. So people that assess us, we have guidance from them, and we work really in a very strategic way. And always taking into account what has been said in the territories. That's really important. It's governance that gives this trust and allows us to move forward.
Fazendo todo esse processo de construção a partir dos territórios para que a gente possa fazer
not
nossa,
always
o
work
nosso
in the
trabalho,
territories,
como
but
diretoria,
they build
como
with
equipe,
them
enfim.
for us to be able to
E
work properly and pick out,
dos resultados bem positivo também
move forward.
que a gente
One of the
trabalha
positive
são a questão
results
de como a gente
that
trabalha
we
com que esse
obtained
recurso chegue
was
nos
how to
territórios, né?
work
A gente tem aí
for
8
those
linhas de
resources
atuação, né,
really to get to the
distribuídas em
territories.
várias áreas. E nós temos aí também
We have
esse acompanhamento
8
que é feito
zones,
pelo Fundo Podaali
and
para
then
com as organizações.
we do this
Então,
with the
a partir do
Podaali
momento que a
Fund,
gente trabalha
the
nessas
organizations,
3
there's
linhas
monitoring,
de atuação,
and then
em que os
we
editais
work
são
in those
lançados, carta
3
convite.
axes,
Então, existe todo um processo de acompanhamento, né, de
sending
orientação. Não se
then
trata apenas de
invitation letters,
dar o dinheiro para a organização executar. Então, existe um treinamento, existe um
convocations,
acompanhamento,
calls, call
ensina,
for
a gente
meetings.
mostra.
So it's not
Então,
only about
toda
giving
uma
money to the
toda essa
organizations,
parte
there is
burocrática a gente
really
absorve,
a
de
follow-up.
forma que quando a gente
As
repassa para
Josie
as
said,
organizações,
all
chega
this
algo bem enxuto,
bureaucratic
bem
aspect,
simples, numa linguagem que eles
we deal
entendam,
with it,
né? Então,
so
é
that
muito
when
esse
it gets
trabalho que a gente
throughout
faz
the
nessa parte
organizations, it's
mais
much simpler
institucional mesmo,
in
né?
a manner, in a language they will
E
understand.
eu acho
So we
importante a
also work
gente
in that
tocar nesse
institutional
assunto
front,
também,
and that is,
que quando a
I believe,
gente
very
leva
important
isso
to
para os
mention this as
territórios,
well.
para as nossas lideranças, por mais que elas
When this is
participem
taken
desse
to the
diálogo, por
leaders
exemplo,
in
no
the
edital, né?
territories, even though they participate
Existem
in this
lideranças
dialogue, for
que elas
instance,
não
a
querem,
call
por
for
exemplo,
proposals,
participar de um
there are
processo de
leaders that
prestação de
do
contas.
not
Não
want,
que ela não vá
for
fazer prestação de
instance, to
contas, ela vai fazer
partake
prestação de contas,
in a
mas ela prefere
process
direcionar para
of
uma outra
one has
pessoa,
to go through
né?
audits. Not
De
because
repente, uma
they don't
liderança, um
want to
ancião
do it. At the end, they will,
que
but they
comanda toda a
rather
organização, mas
direct
quando chega
this
nessa parte de
to
prestação de
someone
contas, ele fala,
else.
não, eu não vou fazer, eu vou pedir para fulano fazer. Isso para a gente é super tranquilo.
So they ask
Não
someone
se
else
trata
to
de
do it.
impor algo, né?
And for
É
us, it's
você
okay indeed,
fazer com
because
que ele
it's not
trabalhe à
about,
vontade, né? Eu não posso
uh,
invadir um
it's
território
really
que é
about
dele,
doing,
algo
not
que é
about
próprio
pointing out.
dele. Então a gente trabalha muito
I
essa
want
questão
him to
também
work
interna
properly, and
nas
it's his
organizações,
territory.
né?
So
Então isso é
we have
resultado
to do
também
things together.
muito
That's
positivo que a
something we
gente traz.
discuss in the organization, and that is the result. Indeed, it's a
Acho que uma
result
coisa
we bring.
interessante também a gente trazer que
There's
essa
something
integração
else very
que
interesting as
existe
well
entre COIAB, nossa organização maior,
in terms
o Fundo
of
Podaali
the
e essas
integration that
organizações. Então
exists
existe um
between
diálogo
COIAB, an
muito
organization, a bigger
apurado nesses
organization,
3 atores que
the
envolvem todos os nossos
fund,
processos,
our
né?
fund,
É muito esse
and
processo
the other
de escuta
organizations.
mesmo, né, que a
That
gente
process
traz.
of
Uma
hearing,
das coisas
hearing
também
properly.
que é importante a gente trazer,
One of
que
the
essas
aspects
ações de
also
articulação
important
que
to say
existe, e aí a gente vai mais para um lado
is that
político, né, da
those
COIAB,
actions that
essa articulação que
exist
existe, por exemplo, com o Ministério Público Federal, com a FUNAI, muito a partir das
with
demandas que são trazidas
articulation
dos
with the
territórios, né?
FUNAI,
O Podaali, ele é,
with
em si, em sua essência,
prosecutor's
muito
office. This
técnico,
has to
né?
do
Então, quando
with
parte para
the demands that
para esse campo
are
político,
asked in our
né? Então aí
territories.
a COIAB
So
já entra em ação,
when
ela
we
quem dialoga
go
nesses
to that
espaços
political
e traz para a
field,
gente já algo
the
bem mais
COIAB is the one
institucional, né?
who
De forma que a gente consiga
dialogues and
trabalhar isso,
that
né? Colocar
brings
isso em
us
ação de uma
something
forma
that is
mais
more institutional for us to be able to
mais
work
institucional mesmo, né?
and put it into practice
E
in an
ainda
institutional way.
nessa questão das ações, a gente tem
And in
participado
terms
também
of
de
the actions,
incidências
we
do
have
próprio
also
hotel, né? As nossas
participated
organizações,
in
elas participam também desses processos
organizations,
de
our
incidência.
organizations
Muitas
partake
até
in those
mesmo
processes of incidents.
direcionam seus apoios para essa questão de incidência, né? Então é uma das linhas que a
Many
gente
of them
trabalha também
direct their support to that topic of incidents. So that is a point we work a lot.
Desses apoios, a gente conseguiu levar para as nossas
with that
organizações,
support, we are able also to take to our organizations, for instance, teams where it can be possible their action in territories. We work with organizations that work with physical demarcation of their territories, and therefore for them it's fundamental to have a team be able to use it. To do a demarcation, just walking, is something impossible because of the characteristics of our region. So it's very important to have a team, really, and to monitor this. We have control centers that are very important for those territories, to monitor them, something that we...
Essa burocracia que existe. E aí nós temos, por exemplo,
in terms of bureaucracy to make things easier for everyone.
Todo o processo de câmbio, processo bancário para você executar. Então, tudo isso que a gente absorve leva para as nossas organizações de uma forma
and there is all this theme, exchange, money transfers. It's very positive result.
E também nós tivemos o RCID do Riozinho do Iaco.
And we also had, together with the homologation of Cachoeira, the Tuiaco region. That was a great victory for us. We are talking about processes that the Podaali Fund will then be able to call an auto demarcation made with a lot of disputes. So we conquered this, as I can say it. And indeed, it's incredible for us. It's the result of a work that we have been taking forward. Another positive result I would like to underline is the flexibilization we have in terms of some supporters and financiers. It's not about absorbing all of what the donor gives. So there's a dialogue. We have to be there with the supporter, donor, and talk to him about our reality. It's not something fixed. Like one would say, Podaali shows this and we want you to move forward in that direction. So there is a real dialogue. That's pretty important. So I will stop here on that note. And if you allow me to show a short institutional video as well, for you just to have an idea, broad idea of the work we've been doing with the Xavante people.
Está no chão dos territórios, vendo os apoios que o nosso mecanismo indígena conseguiu fazer chegar nos territórios, é a concretização de um processo de construção dos povos indígenas e é o cumprir da missão do nosso Fundo Indígena.
Para povos indígenas, é muito importante essa iniciativa que nós estamos tendo. E a Podaali foi criado para facilitar, para atender e reconhecer as realidades do seu povo.
Precisamos ajuda financeira para não fazer o mesmo ato dos grandes produtores de grão e criadores bovinos. Acima de tudo, manutenção das nossas biomas, que seja cerrado, seja na mata de transição e bioma amazônico.
Não basta vir com grandes programas, né, de monocultura. A questão está muito ligada à agrobiodiversidade dos povos indígenas e do povo Xavante em questão.
Esse trabalho que a gente tem feito junto com o Podaali, né, parceria Podaali, Coiado e Pepointe, justamente para tentar criar uma primeira experiência, né, para ver o que é possível, como é possível fazer com que esse recurso chegue no chão do território, né?
Então, manter as nossas estratégias, como os nossos mecanismos indígenas e as nossas organizações ativos e atuantes no território, de fato é algo que nós iremos continuar fazendo, né?
Então, uma COP, ela é muito importante no nosso país, mas o nosso país precisa ter políticas públicas que valorizem o nosso conhecimento, que valorizem o nosso modo de vida. O nosso modo de vida não é primitivo, pelo contrário, ele é do futuro.
Obrigada, Sandro.
Thank you so much, Sandro.
Nessa contribuição desses resultados, a partir da
Thank you really very much for your contribution,
os apoios que o
sharing the experiences and your perspective of the actions of Podaali funds. It was amazing. And the prize as well, you were talking about given to the Shavanti people. It's great to show results with those videos, pictures, and to have the funds presenting those results that we call results obtained by the territories. The support is not a project of Podaali. Indeed, those are projects coming from the territories. The fund are just supporting what already exists. It does not belong to us. We're not the ones developing those projects. They exist already. The initiative exists. And then what we do is to support. So more often than not, when one say it's the Podaali fund with this project, actually one should say that no, the project is yours. We're just supporting, helping out those projects that already exist, those realities, the territories, and we will now hear about the experience of those results.
Nós estamos caminhando também para encerramento. Já vem uma pessoa já dizendo que está o tempo. Josimara.
With the Rutî funds. I'll pass the floor to Josimara.
Bom, pessoal, estão comigo ainda.
She'll talk about her experience, her fund.
Mas é muito importante.
We are indeed very tired already today, but it's so important to be together, to be able to show you a little bit of the results that we've obtained thanks to those mechanisms. The fund is not the Rutî fund, it's another fund.
Que esse é sonho
It is
de mais de 50 anos do Conselho Indígena de Roraima, que atua
a fund of the Roraima Council that works tirelessly for the autonomy of its territory. It's a dream that has been built. Many groups, although it's a recent fund, it has been built for a long time now, and based on the experiences there were, we created the fund for it to be a tool, an arrow, and for it to also be a political fund, technical as well, but in a way that ensures it to be what the organization needs it to be. And in the first moment, we support 25 initiatives in terms of production and extractivism. When we started that fund, it's important to say, we had many meetings, assemblies, discussion, and we had that diagnosis made to understand what the territory needs. The idea of the indigenous funds is the same for us all, but it's different how it works from place to place. It depends on each territory, on how people get organized, and the funds respect those ways of life. Podaali has, as other funds, the challenge really to make the demarcation of all the Amazon region. That's huge. And it's a process. We had really assessment to try and understand what would be the best way of acting, especially if they do not produce in their territories. And people want to produce. They say that the Amazon land, many say, are not productive. And we show they are. People have their own agriculture and ways of planting. So the production has been really the first demand of the territories, and we tried to respect and to follow what the leaders asked. It does not mean that the fund will support only that. This is an adapting fund depending on the territory, and we had our first moment, our first call, 2,750,000, supporting 25 initiatives with community, with family. It's that way that we then, in a collaborative way, we support the families with a management that is shared. Some communities receive 25,000 reais, others 150,000. So it's an important support, and it's important to say that this comes, as was said, support to initiatives that already exist. We're not inventing anything, we're just strengthening what the territory already does. That is very important to say, and the fund has a indigenous governance, a team, 7 members that are dedicated to the good development and functioning of the group, together with leaders always present from territories, women, youth, to shower leaders as well, so that we can have that space, secure space of collaboration. Indeed, they need to be present in the decision-making processes. That is, the operative team that implements what the territory needs. And for a security reason, in that moment, we have to raise a call for proposals, and we supported 25. We received 145 projects demands. That was something quite impressive. The amount of projects we got was amazing. And we could only support 25 of them. That's the amount we had. And also because we are at the moment, pilot moment, but we had to do things properly to see how the territory could receive the resource. And the Girata Fund has been a tool of struggle in the Council of Roraima State. And as I always say, we are strong, strengthened with an online node site management data collected from the territory. And that is something very important. We did it quite quickly, I must say as well. And the fact as well that the fund is an organization that is very powerful, talking about the Indigenous Council of Roraima, 50 years of struggle they have in history. And we have all the departments as well that support that organization in many ways. Legal assessment, for instance, other assessments supporting the funds, which is something very important. Because if we had to create the funds from from scratch. It would take us years to be able to move forward with the first call for proposal. So it's very important to talk about the strength of our organization and say as well that this fund means leaders working together. It's the continuity of a work of the Indigenous Council of Roraima, and we will continue supporting those initiatives, the diversity, and it's something the territory really needs. So I would like to thank you all, those in Roraima territory, those partook, Ariane too, the process, her father as well, her sister is our counselor. So we really want this fund to be representative, something to represent the communities, and we have this care as well. We want people to feel as being part of those process, and I would like now to call attention for a video now made specially for this panel. It's a video that shows a little bit of the territory, and for me it was amazing to follow the shootings in the territory, feel what they were saying. So we are going to share this video and we will then share it as well in our social networks and media.
É que nossa terra, é que é o nosso floresta, tem muito produto que tem aqui na floresta. É que tem uma castanha, tem os animais.
O Fundo Indígena Rutî, ele é um antigo sonho que meus avós, minhas avós, meus tios e minhas tias sonharam, batalharam, primeiramente para conseguir o território, porque sem território não existe vida. E o sonho que a gente almeja dentro desse território é viver bem, é ir para as matas, é ir para os rios, para os lagos. E o Fundo Indígena Rutî, ele é essa ferramenta. Ele é o sonho que meus líderes, meu pai, meus tios, meus parentes sonharam para que a gente pudesse fortalecer quem a gente é de verdade, para que os nossos cantos possam soar ainda mais forte.
Nós transformamos sonho em realidade. O Fundo Indígena Rutî é a resposta que procuramos. Chega de promessas vazias. Precisamos de um financiamento direto, com confiança e respeito aos nossos modos de vida. Apoiar esse fundo é apoiar quem está segurando o céu sobre as nossas cabeças. Nós somos a resposta.
Ele vem para nos dar uma sobrevida a um mundo que acha que o dinheiro pode dominar tudo. Não, o que a gente quer é apenas apoio para fortalecer o que a gente tem. A gente não quer criar nada novo. Nós ainda temos floresta, rios, peixes, caça, aves. Agora a gente precisa cuidar, porque se eles morrerem, nós também morreremos. E se nós partirmos também, eles também partirão. Eles também não sobreviverão, porque um se conecta ao outro. Um é enraizado no outro. Não existe vida separada. Somos um corpo só. Somos os territórios indígenas que clamam e gritam por justiça. Nos respeitem. Nós somos o Fundo Indígena Rutî, o fruto das lutas das comunidades indígenas.
Eu gosto muito de ouvir que vocês, como indígenas também, correndo atrás de buscar apoio para apoiar nessa base. O governo mesmo nunca nos apoiou.
O Fundo Rutî, ele demonstra para mim, mais união, porque através desse projeto nós podemos juntar mais a nossa família, mostrar que nós podemos viver da terra de forma sustentável, né, da forma mais natural possível. E dizer também que, através desse projeto, nós podemos mostrar para as outras famílias da comunidade que nós sabemos trabalhar, né, nós sabemos usufruir da nossa terra, podendo assim também ajudar, né, outros parentes, né.
O sonho que eu tinha, realizei. Então esse plantio de banana serve para mim, serve para a comunidade, serve para fortalecer as escolas, a região daqui da Serra da Moça. Já significa como fundo de segurança para mim, né? Força para mim fortalecer mais.
Essa é a nossa fazenda Paracal, ela tem a referência mulheres, né? Nosso projeto que foi feito dentro da comunidade é fazer a estruturação da nossa fazenda. O objetivo trazer um benefício para que a gente mais trazer jovens, mulheres, para estarmos dando continuidade do trabalho.
Isso fortalece o nosso trabalho dentro do território, né? Isso traz benefícios para a família também, para as regiões.
A gente trabalha lá o projeto de gado, né, bovinocultura, né, e esse projeto ele vem fortalecer, né, e Fundo, através das suas ações, vem cada vez mais fortalecer o nosso projeto.
Pé de castanha carregado. Ano que vem vai dar muita castanha. Esse ano não deu, mas o próximo ano vai ter muita castanha para a gente trabalhar.
Os projetos que me ajudou se chamam de Fundo Rutî. Ele que apoiou esse projeto.
A gente precisa direto porque para a gente manter nossas famílias, assim, às vezes a gente fica assim muito preocupado quando a gente não tem como para a gente mandar assim de produção, né? Por isso que é importante isso.
Então nós precisamos ajuda. Nós temos riqueza aqui na terra indígena. Tem muitos aqui na terra indígena, uai.
Então, através do Fundo Rutî, o CI vem fortalecer a sua base. A base do CI é a comunidade. A base do Conselho Indígena de Roraima é o tuxaua, é o vaqueiro, é o pescador, né? É o agricultor que vive todo dia no rio, no castanhal, na sua roça. Essa é a base do CI, né? E a gente convida vocês também a fazer parte dessa história, a fazer parte dessa luta. E o Fundo Rutî é a floresta, é o rio, é o lavrado, né? É as serras, é as cachoeiras. O Fundo Rutî é a comunidade, é o território indígena.
Gostaram? Esse é um vídeo feito pelo nosso parente Kamikiaki.
It is a video that was done by an Indigenous filmmaker, a very special person for us, by the way, and that's what it is like being in a territory. Through that video, we wanted to show that these are, the lives and territories of our people, and they're important to us and the entire planet. So those who are here, those who are online, please think about that. These territories are important for the entirety of humanity, and we're creating strategies to protect them. Thank you. Thank you so much, Josie. That was great video. Indeed, very important. I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to congratulate everyone from the Indigenous funds, from this initiative. I'm sure Indigenous peoples will benefit more and more from stronger funds in the future. I would like to thank everyone for coming, for connecting, for listening to our experiences. I am going to turn it over to Vitória now. Vitória, you have the floor. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Ariane, Jonas, Josimara.
Thank you, Ariane, Jonas, Sandro.
Esse trabalho que está sendo desenvolvido, uma honra para a gente.
It's really an honor for us to have you all here. Well, we're going to wrap up now, but we'll have another activity this afternoon. If you haven't registered, you can do so by scanning the QR code on the screen. I also wanted to say that we have a QR code here for a satisfaction survey. We want to know what you feel about Casa Sul Global. This is very important to us. So if you can please answer, that'd be great for us. I also wanted to thank Isabella Canto and Canto Co-working. We ask that you return your headsets to Sofia on your way out. We'll start registration for our next activity half an hour before the activity. Should you have any questions, our team can help you. And once again, I wanted to thank the funding partners of Casa Sul Global, Baobá,
Fundo Baobá pela Equidade Racial, Grupo Volkswagen, Fundo Casa Socio-Environmental,
Fundo Casa Socio-Ambiental, Fundo Brasil, Global Giving, Clima e Sociedade, Global Alliance for Green and Gender Action, Itaúsa Próspera Social, Global Fund for Community Foundation, Global Green Grants Fund, BEM-TV, Ibirapitanga, Avina, ACP, Sociedade, População e Natureza, and the Sandana Institute. Just wanted to remind you all that the cafe is open. You may find coffee, lunch, and snacks. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in a bit.
Muito boa tarde, gente. Que alegria ver todos vocês por aqui. Bom, já já a gente vai... Oi? Som? Já já a gente vai começar nosso último painel aqui da programação da Casa Sul Global. Enfim, foi uma linda trajetória, né? Para quem não me conhece, eu sou Vitória Brown, sou mestre de cerimônia.
I am Victoria Brown, I am the MC.
Conduzindo as atividades da Casa Sul Global.
Conducting the activities.
Oi, melhor. Bom, estive aqui durante todos esses dias conduzindo a atividade.
I've been conducting the activities of Casa Sul Global. I am going to describe myself to get started. I am an African Amazonian woman with long curly hair. I am wearing a white and black dress.
Bracelete no braço
brown
esquerdo.
shoes and a bracelet, and I have a tattoo on my right arm. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for coming today, for those who are connected online as well. Thank you to all the people who have participated in our programs here at Casa Sul Global. If you haven't, you can get a headset.
A gente precisa dos fones para que vocês ouçam diretamente o que os painelistas vão falar nos seus.
Please get a headset. And we're going to have translation today. By the way, thank you to Sara and Arine, our great Brazilian Sign Language interpreters. We have launched in Belém the first edition of Casa Sul Global, which is a physical, symbolic space for political mobilization, production of knowledge, and collaboration for philanthropy for players of the Global South. We want to impact the dynamics of power to make sure that the local solutions are at the core of discussions for financing for climate and nature. Casa Sul Global is an initiative of Aliança Fondos del Sur and Rede Comoa. And this year, we also have the support of Shift the Power movement and the Community Funds Network in the Amazon, with dozens of organizations in independent philanthropy in Latam, Africa, and Asia. Casa Sul Global is responding to the call of the Brazilian presidency to a global workforce, which is the cooperation between peoples, sectors, and territories to transfer commitment into action. Our program comes from a collective creation through the call for propositions open for members, networks, and partnering organizations. The 40 activities that were sent were assessed by a committee integrated by representatives in Brazil, Asia, and Africa, and they recommended the activities for our program. So I would like to thank everyone who has taken part in that. We would also like to thank our funding partners, Baobá, Grupo Volkswagen, Fundo Brazil, Fundo Casa Socio-Environmental, Global Giving, Clima e Sociedade, Global Alliance for Green and Gender Action, Itaúsa, Próspera Social, Global Fund for Community Foundations, Global Green Grants Fund, Bem-TV, Ibirapitanga, Avina, ACP Institute, Sociedade, População e Natureza, and the Samdana Institute. This morning we had our first activity with Rutî, Indigenous Fund, and now we're starting our last activity for this edition of COP30, philanthropy based on trust for social environmental activities, perspective and lessons from the Global South. I'm going to turn it over to Osvaldo Alvisar here. I'm going to ask you all to describe yourselves before you start your presentations. Thank you.
Hola a todos, a todas. Primero que nada,
everyone.
Well,
first of all, I would like to thank you all for being here today in this space, in this conversation. I would also like to thank everyone who's online today and everyone who has participated in the previous activities. I am Osvaldo Alvisar, and I am working with programs for Latam and the Caribbean. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Global Giving, which is my organization. We want to transform philanthropy to accelerate development led by communities, and this means that we are trying to join forces with corporations, donors, communities. We want everyone to be on the same page and then focus on such solutions. I am wearing a blue shirt, brown pants, and shoes. I am a 35-year-old man with a beard, and I wanted to just tell you that I also am extremely happy to be here today, mediating this conversation with 4 very special people who are going to tell us more about how they're helping communities, working with organizations from different places on the planet. So I'm very happy to be here. And as you've probably seen, we're here to talk about philanthropy based on trust to promote social environmental solutions. So I just wanted to tell you what we're referring to with this title. Well, first of all, we have to highlight development led by communities and social environmental solutions led by communities. I also wanted to show everyone the importance of having communities dealing with these problems get together and tell us what priorities they have, what kind of solutions they want to promote for the challenges that we have. So that's the first thing for this matter. And this is a subject that has been discussed, over and over again. There are more organizations now participating. We want to transform connections between the different entities that are part of these projects. Usually the ones that are investing financial resources are going to define how things are done, And the idea of philanthropy based on trust is to break that pattern and make sure that the other participants, the ones bringing work, experiences, knowledge, they should be leading the path. And funding partners should actually just listen and follow up on the activities to be, good partners and allow for these solutions to be implemented. So that's what I wanted to mention to begin. And I think we can get started. I am going to ask our speakers. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention how this is going to happen. We're going to have 3 rounds of conversations. The idea is for everyone to have 5 minutes actually to share their perspective, and then we'll open some space for you to participate as well, sharing experiences, concerns, etc. So again, this is going to be a round of introductions. I'm going to ask everyone to introduce yourselves, describe yourselves, tell us about your role in the organization. And if you can tell us as well, like a personal message. I mean, we've been here for about 2 weeks with so many experiences. We wanted to know from you something that you've noticed here that gives you hope. Also, if you could tell us more about what you do in your organizations, highlighting how that is promoting development led by communities. I know it's too many questions for just 5 minutes, but if you could tell us also what the role is for funding, what kind of funding makes it possible, to promote such solutions. So I'm going to turn it over to Roberto from this feminist fund in Brazil that mobilizes financial and non-financial resources to promote initiatives in the country. So you have the floor. Can you tell us more about that? And what kind of role funding plays? Thank you, Osvaldo. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's nice to be able to speak Portuguese. I am Roberta Lima from Transformar, as my colleague was saying here. This is a feminist fund that has been mobilizing resources for 25 years to help cis, trans women and other identities as well. I am a woman. I have short hair. I'm wearing red lipstick, yellow t-shirt, and green pants. I think my microphone is probably not working very well. Let's double check. Let's double check.
Ok. Não tem problema. Tá vendo?
Okay.
Muitas cores, muitas informações.
You're telling me it's working. So, to answer your question, Osvaldo, Elas has been to COP28, 29, 30, and I think what gives me hope is that we've been doing this and different opportunities in which we couldn't see civil society. We had, in the past, we wouldn't see civil society participating. You would only see men in a tie. But now it's changing. Now we're in contact with this universe, with communities. So that reminds us that we have survived so far, and not just that, we have prevailed. So that gives me a lot of hope, for sure. And as a Brazilian person as well, it's nice to see Brazilians looking at Belém and admiring the city the way it should be. Now, talking about Elas, about the fund and how we work with philanthropy, I think it's important to mention the resources that are flexible. Elas captures resources. We're independent. We don't have our own resources, so we capture such resources in a way to make sure that they get to the hands of the right people in a flexible manner, because we believe that communities understand what the priorities are. They know how to reach their goals. When it comes to mitigation, for instance, we're talking about great governmental actions, but if we're talking about adaptation, that has to be localized for the territory. So it's useless to, come with a lot of bureaucracy. It has to be flexible. It has to help these organizations institutionally. Because what we've learned is that when we strengthen an organization, we're strengthening the entire ecosystem. So we truly believe that this trust has to come with flexible resources. Excellent. Thank you so much. It's interesting to see what gives you hope, and also more about Elas, the fund, so that the right resources get to the right hands. Let's now turn it over to another organization that works with sustainability in Bangladesh. If you can introduce yourself and tell us what you've seen over the past few days that gives you hope for the future, and also in your case, since you work with projects, how do you make sure that these projects are led by communities, and what kind of funding do you think helps promote these social environmental solutions?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm from Bangladesh, and I'm from Bangladesh. It's far from Brazil. At this moment, Bangladesh is now early evening, and here is afternoon. So you understand, we are here after 30 hours, 25 hours travel. I am now today wearing the white shirt, striped, blue pant, brown shoe. I'm 58, but feel like I'm 28. And gray hair. I'm happy to be here. I work with an organization. It's named Friendship. I believe you will never forget this word, friendship. Everyone in our life, we look for friendship. And then the very beginning, the Friendship founded by Runa Khan. She is our founder and executive director. The main motivation was everyone in this world, wherever it is, he or she is, whoever he or she is, he or she must deserve dignity and hope. So we are respectful to the dignity of every human in the life. So in the very core of our motivation and program principle, the hope, dignity, and nature is our inspiration. We are very much respectful to humanity. Undermining humanity, we can't work. And to address any mandate, it should align with humanity, hope, and dignity. So in the very beginning, traditional funding concept, what is they have their own mandate. So that at one point, Friendship realized sometimes to fulfill the donor's mandate is not matching with community's need. Community needs, for example, water, donor asking for something else because this is their global mandate. So in other words, community is not really fulfilling demand and need. So then friendship, those started in Global South, and then we expanded our horizon in Global North. We started Friendship International. And Friendship International has Friendship Luxembourg, Friendship Holland, Friendship Belgium, UK, and France. These are one big friendship family. Colleagues in Holland, Friendship, Netherlands, in those countries, they raise fund, they mobilize technical support for us, and they raise fund the felt need identified in the community, by the community, so that we are respectful to the community, not only need, the way community want it. So community respect to community and respect to their decision, and they are part of in implementation. And this is the strength and beauty of our organization. I must say that actually helping us to make sure that community are aligned, so that community understand what's going to happen, community understand why going to happen, and community understand this is our felt need, we should take care of it. So sustaining the impact of community, the program is an issue, and we are happily maintain this. We have around 7,000 people in our organization. They're working on the ground level, and around 2,500, they are community based and to some extent volunteer. They are trained. They have trained for different skills, and our around 5,000 staff member, they are also live close to the community. And in COVID, when everything shut down, everyone shut down their activities, we continued because community know what we do and how we do. And they continued. We had a strong relation. Every day around 10,000 phone call we maintained with our community members by our staff members. So community feel we are not alone. We felt we are not alone, and we maintained our work. And this is actually truly helpful. One last thing I must say for first round, that is this respect to the community need, the respect to the flexibility, respect to the adjustment is really is the instrumental to sustain the impact of any intervention. Thank you.
Así por compartirnos un poco sobre el trabajo de Friendship, y creo que has puesto dos elementos centrales.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think you bring important elements here. We see that these connections have to be based on respect. We have to recognize the protagonism of the communities that have to be at the core of it. Also, these connections, they take a while, but we see results. These are projects that are, rooted, and that's why even during the pandemic, it's possible to continue all that. So let's turn it over now to our next speaker here, Professor Zakaria. Can you tell us more about, well, first of all, you can introduce yourself, describe yourself, and can you tell us more about the solutions that you're working with, led by communities, and what kind of funding do you work with?
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely pleased to be here. We represent 3 continents in this panel: Asia, America, and Africa. Thank you, Global Giving, for supporting us and having us all the way. We traveled 23 hours to get to this place. Although between Recife and Sao Tome and Principe is only 4-hour flight. But nevertheless, we have to go all the way, make the tour of Africa, 23 hours to get to Belém. Thank you very much. I'm extremely happy to be between the 2 iconic rivers, the Amazon and the iconic river in the Amazonian plateau. This part of the world hosts most of the human genome from Africa. So anyone coming from this part of the world who goes to Africa, goes back to home. So I'm extremely pleased to be listening. Having said that, my name is Professor Zakaria Osman. I'm a professor of genetics, human genetics. But presently, I'm assuming the position of the honorary chairman of NGO called SACAL. SACAL is the son of the Sahel. I will come back to this issue to elaborate more about you. The biggest threat to humanity is climate change. Climate change is the biggest threat to humanity. I'm not talking about the Hiroshima bomb or the Nagasaki bomb. This is the ever bigger humanity. We all are linked by 5 elements: soil, water, light, air, and temperature. One of these 5 elements changes, the whole equilibrium changes. So, in this context, we are confronted with either La Niña or El Niño, either too much water or too little water. Whichever the case, the environment is upset. When the environment is upset, and then the people who live in the environment are likely to be sick. We are, in this context, using what we call the community-led approach, which has 3 things: community participation, community engagement, and community leadership, ownership, excuse me. And that has those 3 things have 3 steps. One is at the project idea level, when we think about the project. The second level is during the formulation and implementation level. And then the third level is after the project end level, so that we can ensure a stream of benefit, a stream of durability, instead of the population, community, whether individual or the community, will relate to one another with regard to what they get. The second thing that I would like to draw your attention is that poor people do not know medium long term, they know short term. Their lifespan is limited to something short. If they don't see the benefit, they cannot do it. They have to relate to one another. The relation between the community and the project, whatever it is extremely crucial, will ensure durability and sustainability and everything. And that a transfer of responsibility. The third issue is the humanizing relation. When you transfer the responsibility, the engagement, the ownership to the population, you humanize the relation. It's no longer top-down, and it's no longer a vertical relation, but it became a very horizontal relation, become more human, and people are responsible. The tendency so far has been, we know everything, you know nothing. Whereas we can dig from the indigenous knowledge, to do so many things. We have a knowledge, we have a history, we have an oral tradition, we have which will let us to understand exactly which things. So it's a give and take. It's not a one-way relation, but it's both ways. We have to humanize the relation. We have to do it. The biggest challenge that we are confronting is in terms of funding. Funding is the name of the game. Funding has 3 things. One is timely funding, flexible funding, and enough funding. So life is like multiplication. It's not adding. It's not you add the 3 plus 0 plus 5, you get 8. No, it's multiplying. If you have a 0 multiplying by 5, you get a 0. So funding has to respond to that. Too little funding is of no relevance. Too late funding is of no relevance. Has to be very flexible, has to be very consequent, has to be very coherent with what we are looking for. Having said that, I will take you around about Africa later on if you will give me the opportunity. And once again, thank you for very, very, very nice welcome that we've been receiving so far. We've been here.
Muchas gracias, profesor Zakaria, por comentarnos un poco de la aproximación.
Thank you so much for telling us more about SACAL. And it's true. It's important to highlight that these connections are important for this kind of approach. And we have to make sure that communities have to be leaders and they can, play their leadership. And financing has to be timely, the right amount, and it has to be flexible. We agree. These are basic elements of funding. for these initiatives led by communities to work. Thank you. Now let's turn it over to Jaime from Tierra Viva. This is an environmental fund in Central America. So Jaime, if you can introduce yourself and tell us more about the Tierra Viva Fund. What do you think makes it possible for you to support these initiatives? Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I am from Nicaragua, from Central America. I am here representing, well, I am part of the Tierra Viva Fund. And I'm wearing a brown pants, an orange shirt, and a cap with the Palestinian flag, because I don't want you to see my gray hair. Well, Tierra Viva Fund is a fund that works with a small region. If we compare it to other places in the world, it represents 0.2% of the surface on Earth, but it has 7% of biodiversity around the world, which shows that it is qualitative importance in terms of conservation of biodiversity and all the environmental issues. Also, it's located in a very strategic way, in a very strategic place, actually, between both oceans. So we have 60 indigenous peoples there, and what the Tierra Viva Fund does is to work to support peoples, communities, farmers, indigenous peoples, African American people in their initiatives. We are not here to support themes. We're here to support people when implementing their own initiatives. And that's why when we establish a notice, for instance, it's not about a theme, it's about the needs of the people that we want to help. And this is done through a network of collaborators in the region. So it's 7 countries in Central America. We work with Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. And this network of collaborators allows us to have an update of the context of each country and also the players. And of course, for us, the main players in the implementation of these challenges would be communities. And in terms of what gives us hope in this crisis, this climate crisis and all the crises that we're dealing with in the world, well, we have a lot of faith on the one hand and certainty that our people, farmers, African Americans, etc., they're people with a lot of spirituality. And this is something that we don't necessarily discuss a lot. We usually talk about methodology and all that, but the essence, the energy that moves these initiatives is faith. There's something superior to us, according to the cosmovision of each people. And also we have hope. Every time we see a family of farmers, producers, we receive a lot of energy because they're showing us the path. They're showing us that things are possible. And even though there are limitations, they're always moving forward and doing things the best way possible. They're implementing solutions, even though they're not present in spaces such as this one. And that's why part of our job is to try to give visibility to these communities and also support their participation in these spaces. You know, here during the COP30 event, we've seen the participation of many people, community leaders who have been with us, helping us, and they've lived the experience, the full experience of COP. And many of them have left already with deep happiness, profound happiness that they're doing the right thing and they want to continue doing that.
Right, so let us talk about the work you do at Terra Viva.
Muy bien, pues gracias entonces Jaime por compartirnos un
Thank
poco
you so
sobre
much, Jaime, for sharing the work you do there at Tierra Viva and your approach. Indeed, it's concentrated in recognizing people in the communities and recognizing that in those communities there are already solutions to many different problems. So indeed, many times the best support we can give is to give visibility, indeed, and ensure that they continue growing and dealing with their new challenges. Now we'll pass to the second moment of our debate. We spoke about what and how before development, environmental solutions that are led by communities, and the how in terms of the trust, philanthropy, and opening spaces so that communities can show their solutions and grow. And now we will talk a little bit about who. So for this, I would like to bring the idea of South, like in the title here, this event, Global South. We can think it like geographically, on the one hand, part of a planet where big majority of population is, and somehow we have been marginalized in many of the development projects, and we are now asking to be protagonists, asking our role, and indeed to take our solutions forward. But the South, in a way, can always also be understood not only as geographically, but as the in terms of inequality structures. So there are norths and souths in the south as well, and vice versa. So, for instance, we see women, migrants, people from the sexual diversity, youngsters, or any people with some kind of a handicap. So that is the south that we find as well in the north, and people that many times are treated really, unfortunately, as objects. So how we can, what is a community? How can we ensure that plurality that make part of these communities can be present in those projects, and indeed those that are starting different initiatives? So the question precisely is, how from your standing point can you ensure that diversity, equity is indeed at the center of the initiatives that you support and led by the community? So we'll pass the floor to Jaime now to speak about his fund. How do you ensure that the diversity is present in your work? Indeed, well, what we do, what we try to do, is to understand the context, to read the local context. That's very important in every country. We do this through a network of collaborators, and it's a fruit as well of the experience of work of people that created this fund, Tierra y Vida. It's the result of accumulated experience working in international organisms, creating national organisms, and in contact with the communities, supporting projects. So that's how we saw how the cooperation worked. And we thought it was important to make change and to have a different approach. This is why we That's another thing we promote as well, a network of people in the communities where we collaborate, for them to be aware not only about the limitations, but also about their potentiality. Because many times projects of those organizations, they reach us and it seems as if it was just a way of helping, like charity, but people have their own capacities. So one has to read this situation, and indeed it will improve people's autoesteem. It helps to identify vulnerable groups as well, for we don't want any group to become an elite, an exclusive group. So sometimes it's used like crutches, you see, for self-esteem. And what we do as well is to promote a family-driven approach, in which women play a central role. And this is why I would say 60% or more are directed to initiatives led by women. And they have a very important role, not only in terms of ecological practices, but they are very important for transference and the management of knowledge in our region, like many others. Also, that has to do with immigration. We had this question of production, which is in which women are very important. They work really a lot in the rural world. And in agricultural production. So this is why it's important to include youngsters as well. So we use many things, fertilizers of many ways, organics, and we know that after the situation with the pandemic, we saw that there are resources, and we need support for those initiatives working in the production of fertilizers. And we promote as well women's rights, and to go back to First Nations knowledge, ancestral knowledge. Interchange between generations is very important. This ancestral knowledge, we still have the elderly people know it, so we cannot exclude them. We want life to be restored, so we need this ancestral knowledge from our elderly. That is where we can find not only the seed, but the seed of our knowledge, of our management, of our ways of understanding our territory. Thank you so much, Jaime. Professor Zacharia, in your case, now how do you ensure that your work is fair, inclusive, plural? How can you put all this diversity at the center of the stage? I'll pass you the floor.
Thank you, sir. First of all, in any community in Africa, there are three things that you have to consider. Women represent 52% of the population. I would say if it was a democratic system, women alone will, elect a president. Second, the youth represent 60% of the population. And then the elder represent between 10 to 15% of the population. We have to admit one thing, that there is a relation between the community and the environment. It's not separate things. People live within the environment. People understand the environment better than we can even think. Each tree that you meet has a meaning, as for shade, for medicine, or for fruit. And every river you cross has a meaning. So you have to take all this what we call basically the holistic understanding of the environment. The second thing is the long-term perspective. Those people do not have a bank account. Those people do not have a salary to go every month and get the salary pay. No, those people live on the work. The work is related to what they have in the environment. So this long-term transmission is based on oral tradition. Every single thing that we have in most of the rural area we work in with Sakal, we have sustainable resource management based on the people. People have preserved. In fact, if you look at, we are the one who have destroyed the environment with the machina, with the machine that we brought, with the high technology. The technology will dig out more than it is needed. But if you leave the person in the sea, she will go and then dig exactly the amount that needed. So there is a concept of resource management which is building in the system, the indigenous system existing. We came with our high profile, high efficiency. We destroyed the whole environment. So when we go back to the environment, to the people and the community, and then you have them. What we call community is the sum, the addition of individual, the family, clan, sub-clan, elder, younger, religious people. It's a whole context. In fact, the social organization is total in any environment. And then you have the environmental challenges. We said that today the biggest threat is climate change. Water, too much water, too little water, but also too hot. The global warming in environment. People are stressed, but then we forget about the animals. The small animals are stressed. The only reason that animals cannot communicate, we don't understand how stressful for the animal. We feel it, but how do we feel? How do you calculate that environment is being stressed? So the global challenge is second, the pollution. Just to be fair, I was looking at Sao Paulo. It's a smoke of pollution, air pollution. So those are in the context of the global environmental change will affect these things. But when you go to the environment, back, I'm sure 40-minute drive from here, you will go, the air you will breathe in 40 minutes in this environment is definitely different from the air you have seen. So people are responsible. They know how to manage their environment. The problem is that we don't associate the local knowledge too much. And then the intergeneration, as I said, transfer of knowledge. Knowledge from the elder to the younger. But as far as we are concerned, where we work, people are really obedient, extremely obedient. And I'm not going to go into the detail, but all the young people like you, they will never come and shake hand with you. They will come, bow down, things like that, because they know we are the depository of the knowledge that can be transferred to the younger people. The younger people bring knowledge. Then the older people, they have the know-how. So when you have the knowledge, you know how, and you know how to be, then the tree will form a total transfer of knowledge that we can dig, we can use that. And that we've been doing with Sakal. Build on the knowledge, build over understanding of knowledge, what we can take out of the environment that we can help us. We bring the finance, we build the technology, but then we have to go back down to the environment to see exactly what we can think. And then let me say, listening to the elder. We listen to the elder much more than you can think of. I've been to Latin America several times. In Rio de Janeiro, I was here, and I was in Buenos Aires. I was in Santiago de Chile. I was in Lima. I traveled. But when you compare with some of the environment that we have in Africa, and particularly in Chad where we work, the younger people will listen to them. Every younger people, before leaving the house, will get the blessing of the elder. It's not taken for granted. Today, the telephone has replaced the communication between elder and younger people. So it becomes more virtual relation than natural relation. So before you said, and then the community engagement. The community engagement is that we tend to forget that the knowledge, local knowledge, is a contribution. Local knowledge is enveloped. We cannot put a price tag. But in fact, what the people, local knowledge, we give us is as much contribution as the finance that will bring. That's exactly what I have to say.
Muchas gracias, profesor. Entonces creo que es interesante ver que tanto en el enfoque de Sakal
Thank
como
you
de,
so much, Professor. This was very interesting indeed. You say that it's fundamental to get to know people locally, to understand them. That is the central point to generate inclusive processes. And it's so interesting to see that for both cases, the generation theme is very present. How important it is to be integrated, young and elderly people. This is something beautiful also in the terms of connection, of transfer of knowledge, and of continuity. Something fundamental in your work. Thank you very much. We'll pass the floor now to Cassie. Tell us a little bit how this working with friendship. How do you ensure that these local guided solutions are really inclusive, diverse, and they represent the plurality of the communities in which you work?
Thank you. First of all, I must say the inclusiveness and integrity is our power. We have an approach we called community initiated disaster risk reduction. This approach itself, whole idea, we can't impose development or any intervention, any adaptation until unless community convinced. So then the challenges came. For example, community has different perception and different challenges, and even literacy also an issue. So what we do, we organize a pictorial mapping, a sort of an assessment that help community to draw what is where and why is why. And all a segment of community, elderly people, women, children, young people, disabled, whatever, they join in this mapping process, and people, others, sometimes brief them, this is, and they're asking them, and there are some inherent knowledge or indigenous knowledge they need to draw the map to unfold their community's challenges. So there's the system itself, the approach itself bring community together. And beyond that, we identify role based on skills, because honestly speaking, the area we work, such a remote area, they don't divide themselves. We divide themselves. They live together. They take care of elderly people. They take care of children. They are making harmony with the women, everyone. Elderly people, disabled people, they are very close. They are very caring. They share. They do believe sharing is caring. So we then identify their challenges. And for example, let me give an example. They grow rice in April. Their grandfather used to rice in April, and then father used to rice in April. But son, when started growing rice in April, it's a floods coming. Then they see it's a red sign, flood and rice cultivation is conflicting each other. Then it's season calendar. They realize we need to change the crop calendar, season calendar. This is the way we help people. And then elderly people take part as an advisory role. And young people, those are too young, 18 to 25, they take there for the voluntary role, for rescue, for other purpose. And accordingly, we segment whole community. Not we, they segment themselves with different roles, different skills. And also children, whatever lecture we give for the young senior people, that lecture convert into rhymes for the children. And children, through rhymes, through drama, through different activity, they get ready for the climate change consequences, the adaptation, and all those things. And women are in the committee, and it's mandatory. Women, 50% of the committee members must be the women representative from the community. And at the same time, they are sometimes chair role, sometimes in a co-chair role. And there are those who don't feel comfortable to speak in front of the main committee. They organize a separate meeting prior to the main committee meeting to make sure their voice is covered. So this is the way we make sure inclusiveness. Let me give an example. That is, we built a cyclone resilient house. That means we have a storm, cyclone every year in coastal areas, and people need to be in the safe shelter. But shelter are a bit far from the community. It's like 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers far from the community to be in the shelter. And for the elderly people, for the children, pregnant and lactating mother, very difficult for them to go for 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers because storm and the thunderstorm, raining. Then we develop a concept to build a cyclone resilient house within the community. But when we built it, it's a two-storied building. But one major challenge, there is no electricity in the area, no power. So how we can take the elderly people or pregnant women to the second floor? But it's not it's not possible for any elevator or something like this. Then we fix some two iron things which really wheelchair they somehow managed to take up. So this is the way, if we have wish, we can make it. So finally, I must say one thing, integrated adaptation solution is our main motivation. We make sure the whatever your intervention can't work. Climate change is a temperature plus erosion we can see, but we can't see health hazards. We can't see the education loss. We can't see many other trauma. So that's why integrated adaptation required all the components to be in one community, in one life, one family. So flexible funding and that trust-based funding always help us to fill the gaps. If we got the fund with the trust, and if donor have our philanthropy, they have a trust on us, we can fill these gaps to make sure integrated adaptation solution, which recognized by Artshot Prize this year by the Prince William. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Casi, por compartir. Roberta, en el caso de Fundo Velas, ¿qué papel juega la inclusión, la diversidad, la equidad?
Roberta, I will pass you the floor now. How is it in your work, the initiatives, the work you do to be the center of your work? Thank you, Osvaldo. I have to start saying that it was great to see you all, my colleagues here talking about women. Great thing. And I take advantage of this to go a bit beyond and to say that it's very important, yes, to have women, to have something that is to go beyond what these people say, and it's what they represent. Jaime was talking about this cosmovision, and indeed, Ella's started with this movement of women, and it grows as well with this cosmovision. It's in the center of this, at stake. How these communities act, how these people, how they do their work has a bit of this. And Ella's, they do our meetings with the groups we support called dialogues. And in those groups, we have the opportunities to unite these groups, for them to have the opportunity to have a space to map context, to divide strategies of action, and to look for opportunities for collaboration and to make networks. And why is that important? Because we tend to work in silos many times. We say this between us, between organizations, but we also say this in Ella's with organizations that we support. So from the moment that we go beyond those actions of those groups, we can also see strategies that we sometimes cannot reach. So from those encounters, from this knowledge, I think that's something very important as well, to have an expectation of those communities, something very important in those dialogues. And from that situation, we can adjust our strategy, institutional strategy, and from that moment on, we can understand what the priorities are from those communities, the problems that are most relevant at certain moment. Alice was able as well with this flexible financing to get to other organization models, not only those that were formal. From the moment one gets to the groups that are not formalized, whether it's structure or political issue, one gets as well to another way of acting on territory. So this exchange, constant exchange, I think Zakaria was talking about the importance of this to be a relation with more than one agent speaking. That's a way Ellis, with time, managed to build this relation and to transpose it into its way of working. So to be close to these movements, to learn with those cosmovisions, is that knowledge said as traditional, where there is a tendency of separating knowledge with scientific knowledge. Those are only two different ways of dealing with knowledge. So I think that in that way, we can have a way of dealing with things that is futurist and traditional at the same time, underlining diversity with what it has and the complexities as well. We live a time where we have a hard time dealing with complex things, and our relations are complex. One can diminish the way of doing. We are complex, and from that exchange on, we realize that that's in this complexity as well, that we have strategies that are indeed responsive and aligned with what we want to do, with where we want to get, and having everyone that we want to take with us on board. Thank you so much, Roberta, for sharing. And indeed, the communities with which you work have mechanisms, experiences, knowledge that can ensure that plurality. So it's not something that has to come from outside, but something that is there already. And to reinforce all those voices. We're getting to the last part of our panel. We have half an hour, and we want to ensure there is space for Q&As as well. So at this moment, it will be shorter, just a couple of minutes for all of the panelists. And then also in terms, and then I will invite you all as well to share your viewpoints and tell us about the challenges, the work you do, your strategies, how it works, how in a way or another this work is articulated with the communities. We know that there are challenges, things that we did not solve. It's not clear how we can do this to ensure that these solutions, environmental solutions to the challenges we have that are led by communities, can develop, grow, and bring the answers to the different problems we have. So I would like now to hear in less than a minute from each of you, what are the main challenges we have for your organizations, in your context, in your communities, to be able to continue finding solutions from the communities. And pass you the floor. Tell us your experience.
So we're starting with Roberta. What challenges are still pending? I think it's not something new, actually. It's about the historic inequality when it comes to wealth distribution. We work with communities led by women, and they don't get enough credit. Even for opening an account, for instance, it's very difficult for them. So we deal with that kind of complexity. These are structural issues, but that impact the organizations that we work with. The second thing is something that has to do with who needs the resources that are going to make a difference. So how do funds like ours function as a bridge, to facilitate that access? And last but not least, lots of bureaucracy, lack of flexibility. So both when it comes to access to resources and when we are dealing with these resources. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that comment. It's true. I agree with all those elements and also all the bureaucracy that there is, and the bridge between, to bridge that gap between those who donate and those who receive that. What about you? What do you think? What are the main challenges?
We are community driven, not donor driven. So we are working from the very beginning community driven. Last couple of years, we initiated a bit unique, different approach we call reversing the flow. Whole idea, we identified 20 community, they open their bank account and they conduct their own assessment, not the way we conduct assessment, no paper, they use their telephone, they use their note, and they meet together in the community to make decision what should be done. Then from 20 community representative, they join in a steering committee like a parliament and they debate each other with the solution. Then the solution which really endorsed by everyone, they come back to their own community, get the approval from the community committee and then ask them, send us money. And they give different phase. First phase, we need this amount, second, third, fourth, fifth. Even in Bangladeshi currency, $3 million takas projects also they submitted. We transfer money to their account and it's happening. It's fine. No conflict. I'll say two sentences. We asked one committee, you made him treasurer. Why? Finance person. Why? I thought they will tell me he know finance, he has a finance background, something like this. Community say different. They said he is a trusted person. Last 20 years we know him. He is very trusted. That's why we made him a finance member. So that's the beauty. Challenge is only one thing. We need to bring back or build or rebuild trust among the donors and recipients, trust among the donors, recipient and community. Try to understand each other and forget about the so-called format, template, preconceived things. Follow simple, easy, straightforward things. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Cassie. Entonces, tiene que ver el desafío justo con construir estas relaciones basadas en la confianza.
Excellent. It's interesting to see that element of trust. There are many times elements that stop that from happening. Now, Professor, in your case, what are the main challenges to continue to promote these solutions, these social environmental solutions led by communities?
Thank you. Let's start by the bad news and then come back to the good news to close. The bad news is that the Chad is in the middle of the Sahel. The Sahel is a strip of land, very arid. Every 5 years, we have a drought. And every 7 years, we have a flooding. So if you are not being killed by the flood, then we'll be killed by the flood. The second thing is that Chad is surrounded by 6 countries. 4 of them are in conflict, sending refugees. We have 3 million refugees out of we are 15 million, and then we have 3 million who came. This is continuous challenges because the funding that we receive cannot keep up with the demand. There is a supply and demand issue. The good news is the technology. This is the first time in the history that in the family, you might find a mother who is educated, a father who is educated, and child who is educated, which is the first time in the human history that if you go back 20 years ago, it's likely that you find a husband and wife are not educated and the child. Now, education, the woman education is the key element. That's from experience. You want to develop this environment, go back to the woman, trust the woman, because they are the mother of the humanity, they are the mother of the family, they are the foundation of the family. The second thing is now, with the technology, you can make transfer of money you don't need. And money will empower. You have 2 things. You have education, and then you have money. And then when you put together plus the knowledge, then you will make a leap forward. So it's not everything is bad. You are not yet there, but things are there. So we passed the resilience step. Now we're in the phase of adaptation. And this is going to be a big challenge. We need more funding, continuous funding, consistent funding. Consistent funding is the name of it. But keep in mind that if we go, but that will be transferred to you sooner or later because we leave and then come back to you. Because like you put the water will go from the wet area to the dry area. So we want that, give us some of the water and then we'll be able to be happy. So we think that the challenges there, but its challenges are meant to be met. We will meet. We have the indigenous population. We have the willingness of the population. We have the more important role of the woman. We have a young population. We have the technology. What else do we need? We need just a continuous funding.
Muchas gracias, profesor. Entonces, vemos que igual uno de los desafíos claves tiene que ver con...
Thank you so much. Thank you for those comments. It's true. It's important to have constant funding. Now, Jaime, in the case of Terra Viva, could you tell us more about the challenges that you are facing?
Bueno, hay una costumbre, ¿verdad? Como que se ha ido creando a través de los años y es la manera de hacer cooperación.
We have to focus on cooperation, and whenever there is international cooperation, people have to focus on requirements, bureaucracy, things that are not necessarily connected with the local reality. So in Honduras, for instance, there was a project where the idea was to plant veggies, and after a while that didn't happen, so they had to remove the pineapples that had been planted by a community so they could do that. These things, they don't happen when initiatives are led by people, by the communities. So we think that's one of the challenges that we have to deal with nationally and regionally. And the way we believe that could be solved is with events like this one, with the participation of our people in spaces like this one, where we have to recognize the value of the local initiatives. And it's not just about recognizing that in words. We have to also think about resources. These are the people who are taking care of our territory, our place. So we have to think about repairing, compensating for all the damage that has been caused, not just in terms of climate, but also biodiversity and water. And these are the people dealing with that on a daily basis. Once we recognize that, we can also focus on the Fondos del Sur, and through this architecture, we'll be able to do that. Excellent. Thank you, Jaime. This has to do with processes that are not efficient, and we have to recognize the role of communities that have been impacted by these many crises, and that's what we have to help with. Very well. We have talked about some of the challenges, so now I'm going to turn it over to this side here so you can share more about your experiences, your perspectives, something that could respond to some of the challenges that have been mentioned. Where do you see the difficulties, the challenges, or if you want to talk about any of the specific ideas, that was mentioned here. So I'm going to turn it over to our audience now to see if you want to share any perspectives, any experiences. Please feel free to do so.
Tenemos una mano allá atrás, pero no sé.
We have a person over there.
Perfecto, muchas gracias.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. Very happy to hear from all of you. And my question is the following. Since we don't have any stability in return in the production of these initiatives, how can you establish trust with financial institutions, for instance, and at the same time, with people who have not adhered to that? They are the ones who are impacted the most. So how do you overcome that barrier so they can trust both parties? Thank you for that question. So it's about trust for donors, for communities. I don't know which one of you would like to answer. I can answer that. I think part of this has to do with the way we think about results. In the financial market, we see that whole thing about scalability and return. And when you think about the experience that somebody had, and you put that on a report, having more self-esteem at the communities is an important result as well. So that comes from the very moment where we're starting to build everything. And after that, we basically translate that into results. When the community is stronger and resilient, we are able to see that they do what they need to do in the territory. So it's about changing the way we think about growth and stability. Excellent. Yeah, about trust, this is essential. I agree. I think, as a colleague was saying in one of these events last week, we always want people to adapt. And she was saying, well, those who have to adapt actually are the countries that have the developed countries already, where there's a lot of concentration of wealth. How is it possible that there is so much poverty and so much wealth, but in the hands of just a few? So we have to think about that. How can communities, our peoples, our communities, how can they trust everything that happens around it and the international system that is causing damage to the planet and humanity, Besides, some of the things that we do is, try to make sure that these initiatives, this effort is visible and that they can get closer to these spaces where there is negotiation. That's what we're trying to do at the COP. And we think that this is the way for us to build that trust. It is about the morale as well. Resources get to the people who have the main issues, and at the same time, they're the ones who are solving the issues with climate, the territory, etc., on a daily basis. And this is very far from the large projects and the large funding projects. At the COP now, people are talking about some of the positive results, but again, we have to be careful because besides those agreements, those who receive money are the large corporations that will benefit from that and not the people. So we have to do something that I believe in instances like this one, the Casa Sul Global, and also the Alianza Fondos del Sur, or the Rede Comoa, and some other networks here in Brazil and around the world. Through that network work and joining forces, we can change things and have a voice.
I must say our practical experience. Here? Okay. First of all, trust building needs transparency. we make sure our transparency with everyone around us. And not always we share success stories. We also share our failure and also share what is our limitations. We don't hesitate to tell this expertise, this experience, this knowledge you don't have. And maybe sometimes we make sure we'll do the work, but even for report writing, even for accounts, even for capacity building, so many things. And second point, we tell our stories, not all the jargon and beautiful stories. We tell stories what is truth, what's happening. So then virtually our donors and partners, they feel they are there. They know the stories. And third point, what we do, we travel together. We travel together, not showcasing everything. We travel together to help them to be familiar with the context situation. Not very nice projects, very well, no. So to us, in conclusion, I must say donor is this perspective is an old perspective. It's a partnering. If you find someone they don't feel donor, they consider themselves boss, be away from them. Take time. Don't jump into it. We have several projects, $1 million projects we have, but we never compromise with our approach. We never compromise with our model. They put extra on this. For example, for a particular project, we need $10,000. For example, we got this donor $3,000, and we take $3,000, and he giving $2,000 on this, but nobody can change the model. Nobody can change the approach. Our education program approach remain as it is last 20 years. Our health program, 3-tier health services, last 23 years same. Yes, you of course adjust, adapt, initiate new program, but not because of donor, because of community, because of felt need, because of justification. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to bounce back to what the three of you have said. The person who put the question is a very right question. I agree with that. The issue of trust has to be related with two elements: transparency and accountability. When you have a community participation, engagement, and ownership, then you build the bridge between give and take. The one who give and the one who wait for accountability, you have to account. Let it be very clear. The rate of success in community-led projects is about above 90% as compared to the government, which is 15%. That's in several studies. Government, 85% will be lost somewhere, pilferage. Second, the administrative cost of delivering one single dollar in the government is about 50 cents, as compared to the community is about 5 to 10 cents, something like that. So in terms of efficiency, in terms of efficacy, you have the both accountability, transparency. And then last not least, the project that we have with community are essentially socio-economic project, not financial economics, not financial. The financial is that you look for the rate of return, the payback period. But whereas here we are saving a life, you are educating one person, we're giving one water, we're building feeder road. Every single increment has a high marginal value compared to something else. No, we are talking about a small project. And Galbraith, the American said, small is always beautiful. It is indeed. No, I'm not talking about the small things, but I'm small by season. So the problem with the big project is the larger project, the rate of pilferage, the rate of failure of the project is much higher than a small project, which are really targeted in due time We need the place, we need the timing, and people look at, people account with that, and people are also.
Perfecto. Tenemos otra pregunta por acá. Muchas gracias.
Excellent. We have another question over here. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I wanted to know the following. Within this context that we're dealing with here at COP30, where funding is a great question for developed countries that are not directing funds the right way to deal with global warming, and also considering that a lot of people need funding to protect themselves and to show the outcomes in the agreements that they're implementing. I mean, within all this context, and considering the rates in the US and the financial insecurity around the world, and wars happening, so war investments also taking part. So when it comes to philanthropy and funding, the fact that the COP30 is being done and organized in the global south, I wanted to know from you about your institutions. What do you see now at the end of these negotiations? Do you think you've seen different agreements between public and private initiatives? Do you think you're going back to your countries with certain instructions, certain positive ideas? Do you think coming all the way here was positive? Thank you for the question. So basically, yeah, what's your take on how it was here at COP30? What kind of implications could that have for your organizations?
Los alcances de esta COP tal vez son incluso más allá de los resultados de las negociaciones oficiales. Lo que hemos sentido es como una renovación de la energía, del ímpetu de la gente.
That there is that this goes beyond, right? We have seen that. We have seen millions of people of different ages.
También de todos los espacios en donde se ha discutido los temas relacionados a la COP en Belém. Esta COP acá en Brasil.
Discussed that in many instances. This COP in Belém has meant a different thing, and this has shown a difference against other COPs as well. Participation has been very broad and strong, and I think this is going to resonate as well in other COPs. There are a couple of things that have advanced. The fact that Brazil wanted this to be a COP for implementation has also led to certain progress as well. We have recognized the leadership of women in these solutions. We've seen the role of agroecology as well to solve biodiversity issues, weather, climate, nature, food, etc. But also in an integral way, looking at agroecology as a way to repair spirituality of the entire planet and humanity, because it's about restoring relationships with our neighbors, with Mother Earth, and this supreme being that has created everything, and where we're just a little tiny part of these things. So I think, yeah, we can do this. We have to cultivate harmony to make sure that things can give fruits and we'll have the world that we want.
I just very proactive to say one thing that is very clear. That is, we can't afford frustration. No way. Yes, we have a long goal, and that is a bit far. But only long goal is not our destination. There are many sub-goals. One sub-goals here. There are many sub-goals around. Don't forget, don't undermine those sub-goals. This program connected by many philanthropies. Let's connect them with us. Let them feel satisfaction, not graphical chart. Satisfaction. The COP negotiation, 30 years, we know the status. But one thing we achieved, we made them obligated. We made us obligated. And we are responsible. Negotiation doesn't mean blaming and claiming. Negotiation should not be begging. It's a rights. It's a shared responsibility for this planet. My obligation to tell you, and your obligation whether you accept or not. If not, this is your problem. And we'll fight, we'll continue fighting, we'll continue tell you the truth. And I can't stop suffering my community forever. But if I can stop suffering for a day, I'll go for a day. I'll not wait until unless have the will shut down then the forever. No, I'll go for tomorrow only. And I'll continue in other hand, dialogue and discussion. One day, definitely, this generation may not agree with us. Next generation will take this responsibility. That's why you need to keep continue our voice up and our action continued. Thank you.
Pensando na perspectiva, né, brasileira, eu acho que é importante
Precisely,
dizer
and
que
thinking in the Brazilian perspective, it's interesting to say that we have philanthropies in the plural, different ones. On the one hand, there is the representation of the strength of those philanthropies. A space like that was only possible to happen because those different philanthropies united. And they said, well, let us show that all of what they said has to be done is being done with confidence, close to women, communities, kids, and their traditional knowledge. So that is very relevant as something that we learn from COP. Indeed, we cannot just look at those distant goals that seem impossible. On the other hand, I think it brings as well a need for us to be strong and attentive. Those financial rivers getting dry as well. It has to do with this kind of relation based on confidence and trust. This money is more bureaucratic, scarce. So how to keep that trust, how to keep those relations, even though we are living in such an environment.
Let me say that for the last 2 weeks, Belém became the heart of the world. Thousands of television, radio, and newspaper were focused on Belém. So Belém became the heart of the world for last week. Let be very positive. One step forward is a step forward. One day, after the day, we'll build up. We cannot get overnight everything we need, but at least we agree on what we're going to need. And I think, frankly, speaking on what you said, as a philanthropy, advocacy becomes stronger. Our voice cannot be ignored, can be heard loud, strong. I saw people who, under normal circumstances, will never meet. I saw them in Belém meeting. It was very, very funny, very, very interesting. And I thought, I saw so many people here. And this is exactly determination. This is the end result, madam. What I'm saying is that the end result of what we are looking at. Now we're moving. Now, I wish we cannot get at the end of one, at the longer term on one day, and that will be finished. But as we progress, that will give reason to believe, given to hope, given to build forth, and in a stronger conviction that we'll reach. This world cannot continue to be polluted on one side, and people will die not that. No, either we live together, or we'll go out together. And this is the world model. So the finance is well there. The technology is here. We have the technology. The demand is here. We have the people who are in need. All we need is just somebody has to put his hand in the bolso, in the pocket, and then put forward, and together we'll look for a better world for our water more available for everybody, things like that. This is what I will have to say to you. Very, very interesting question.
Perfecto, pues estamos ya sobre el tiempo y quiero agradecer mucho las preguntas.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank very much all the questions. I think the last question was a great way also of concluding our panel. Our debate was so powerful here at the Global South House, and an important part is to see that all what I've been saying is related to what is in other spaces and at COP as well. So that is great. Thank you very much to you all for your participation and for sharing your visions with us. All of you, YouTube here present, thank you all very much to your panelists.
I would like to say that we are sitting with the national coordinator of SACAL, the NGO in Chad. The reason I brought him, he's at the age of my youngest son. So we wanted to show that elder and younger people can get together. This is a typical example of that thing. He's very young, just the age of one of my sons who is right now in Houston studying. And he's the head of the SACAL moving things. I'm an older fox, but we came together and he challenged me. We walked all the way and then we came together. That shows that community-driven idea can survive, adding older and younger, but putting at the heart the woman, educated women. The whole thing we're saying is about education. The whole thing is about education. And motherland is the mother, is the woman. That's what I want to say.
Bueno, pues cerramos entonces así nuestro panel. Agradecerle muchísimo a todos su participación.
Thank you so much. On that note, we will conclude then our panel, and I'll pass back the floor to our host here today at South Global House. Thank you all so very much.
Muito obrigada, gente, a todos
Thank
vocês.
Thank you all very much to you all of South House. We are then concluding the panel, and not only our meeting, it was such an honor to present so powerful panels on climatic financing, hope, and connections. We really want to have a new movement, to have the Global South in the center of debates and solutions. It's really quite an honor to see this house so full during all these days. We had a very beautiful movement, many days, full house, everyone here, other days with less people, but also very special. So it was great, beautiful to see this. I want to thank you all, your presence, all of you here, and to thank as well those who are on YouTube following us, and here on TV too. As I have been asking in the last days, we have this QR code. It takes you to survey. Please answer it. It's a form where in a couple of minutes you can answer and tell us what you thought about this activity. It's not finishing here. It was just born here in Belém do Pará. And it's an honor. It's great, really, to plant in this land. Very honored and very happy to see this in my territory. Thank you so much to all the panelists that were here, all of our team, a huge team with people really dedicated and people that believe in this project. So all of this is very powerful, really, and amazing for us. Thank you all. Those to the Casa Sul Global hosts received us all from many territories. Thank you very much. The co-working space, Isabella. Thank you. And I would like to ask you all, please, to hand back your headsets to Sophia when you leave the room, and to tell us that our program will be available at the YouTube channel. One can see those debates again. So please do share and follow us in our network so that we can follow not only movement but a dynamic that was installed here with the Global South House, all those powerful meetings we saw here. So thank you again, our institutions, financing institutions, Fundação Grupo Volkswagen, Fundo Brasil, Fundo Casa Socio-Environmental, Global
for Green Gender Action, Itaúsa, Próspera Social, Global Fund for Community Foundations, Global Green Grant Fund, Bem TV Diversidade, Instituto Ibirapitanga, Fundação Avina, Instituto ACP, Instituto Sociedade, População e Natureza e Desandana Institute. Sem vocês, essa lindíssima programação não teria chegado a tantas
you all,
pessoas.
this program would have reached so many people as it did. So thank you very much for finances. And please follow our social media. And once again, you know that our program will be recorded on YouTube. You can have access to that. Thank you all then once again so very much, and I hope to see you soon.